Started. Do you need something before we get started?
Yeah, the TTCC information for tonight you don't have. I don't know, I think it was sent to us, but I'm not sure who got that because I didn't.
Okay.
But we can make copies if you want for you.
Okay. What I'd like to do is call the meeting to order and handle our first order of business so our guests can, you all can stay if you want, but I'm assuming you're gonna hit the road. So it's 6 o'clock. I want to call the meeting to order of the Bristol Budget Committee. Today is November 15th. Our first order of business is to meet and discuss with the Lakes Region Visiting Nurse Association, who missed our meeting earlier in this cycle. And I'll let you guys introduce yourself if you could.
You guys both up there at the same time? Or
If you want to, you can, and if he's gonna do all the talking, you can sit wherever you want.
You tell me if you want.
Please.
I'm getting my chair.
Yeah.
All right, I can take this chair, my goodness. Okay, folks, first off, my name's Kevin Kelly. I'm the CEO of the Lakes Region VNA, which in the past year and a half has merged with NANA, which is, I guess, one of the primary reasons why I'm here, okay? This is Tanea Call, RN Director for the agency, long history in central New Hampshire, several years as an ICU nurse down at Concord Hospital. Very lucky to have her. She does a fantastic job. First, I'd like to apologize for our miscue. We messed up our invitation, which is the last thing any sane person would want to do, and we apologize profusely about that, okay? I'm simply a mail cross, and we're kind enough to be invited back, and do appreciate that, okay?
Sure.
I'm going to try to make this brief, which for me, as you can probably tell already, is difficult. The line I use is I failed at retirement. Okay? I'm a home care guy since 1980. Travel the country, starting in Londonderry, New Hampshire, which is how we got to know and love this area. But literally lived in 5 different states with my wife, 2 kids, and now 7 grandkids. And with a few health adventures, we moved up to Moultonborough to an acquired lake house we had. Retired early. Joined the Rotary. They gave me a badge about this big. I've since been the president of the Meredith Rotary, but I didn't realize that, that they could see what I used to do in home care. I was invited to be on the board of the Lakes Region VNA because I'm clearly from away. They totally disregarded anything I had to offer for probably 3 years until they were in trouble. The Lakes Region VNA was circling the drain. We had 16 employees. This is in year 95. We had a census of about 60 or 70. We had 250 to 300 visits a month, okay? And I say those numbers because those numbers are almost duplicated by where NANA was a year and a half ago. That's where NANA was, okay? The bad news is that LRVNA, circling the drain, was losing money. And according to Berry Dunn, the big auditing firm, unless things changed radically, was not going to be in existence, okay? Unfortunately, the same report from the same auditors would be coming in for now, okay? Nobody in the community, Greater Meredith, Moultonborough, Center Harbor, Sandwich community had any awareness of what I just said. I see from a few looks on faces that people here might not be aware of that as well. Here's the good news. Besides missing the first meeting, that 16 number of people we had employed in Lakes Region VNA, despite all the reports that were earlier discussed or briefly discussed about the rigors of recruitment these days and the difficulties hospital skilled nursing facilities have had, I'm pleased to report that the current number of employees 4 years later is 94. We've added 94 employees. We've gone from 250 to 300 visits a month to 5,500. And we're in a position to say yes. So that if you imagine yourself as a case manager trying to get back to your life, and unfortunately with the condition of hospitals these days, they need a ratio of nurse to occupied beds to be in spec. If they're not, they don't get paid. So it's very, very serious. And as a result, they've got what I call a quick discharge mechanism working, not a catapult yet, but getting there, where they're being sent home on weekends. and nobody, because of this beautiful area, prefers to work on weekends. Historically, we do, okay? So when you imagine a case manager calling on a Friday night for the parcel of patients to get serviced, they're hearing no. Oh, sorry, no. Oh, I wish you'd called yesterday, but today, no. And then they get us, and our crew says, yes, we can. And then they say, should we tell him Charlie's underinsured? Should we tell him that he doesn't have any insurance? What will they say? And now in our current situation, we say yes. We gave $1.2 million from that humble beginning in subsidized and free care this past year, okay? The amount of care that Nana had been providing has doubled, and the amount of subsidized care has doubled as well, just in the first 11 months that we were joined together, okay? Great crew of people. I don't think a lot of people got sick all of a sudden. I think that they were out there underserved. And the challenge is that every town had its own very respected and appreciated pod that was taking care of their immediate communities. And what I was describing is that what's happening now because of managed care and other influences that are out there and funding, that people that didn't pay attention, I didn't pay attention. I was the Mass Association president, and I vacationed up here, okay? I didn't want to disturb fixed entities that were doing a good job taking care. But now insurance companies need to have blanket coverage everywhere. They need to cover everywhere, and here they come. And as they're coming on board, the agencies that have been doing their thing for 60, in the case of Nana, or 100 years over in Lakes Region VNA, we're getting broadsided. We're getting broadsided. And they weren't in a position to understand what was coming up 93 and respond to it. They also didn't really have the mechanism that our government and CMS is putting in place to thin the herd, okay? They're thinning the herd with community hospitals, they're thinning the herd with home care operations, and they're doing that by squeezing reimbursement, okay? And frankly, I recommend that folks, I didn't know about them actually, but GuideStar 990, have you heard of this creature? GuideStar 990 basically is a website that affords anybody the opportunity to review the tax returns of nonprofits. Right?
We'll write that one down there.
I think so. Well, the tax returns of nonprofits are very interesting because even in the case of LRVNA or current, I don't care about competition. I don't know if you're picking up on that, but I really, if we do what we do, we're going to be fine, and we are, okay? But part of the challenge is that some of these other places, my joke is, they've got 10 Kevins on payroll. And my folks, we got one Kevin, and I think my staff hardly knows what the heck I do, right?
I don't want to pay 10 of them.
Right, I don't want to pay 10 of them. So in this situation, as the government's squeezing and the money's trickling down, Kevins don't take the hit. They do Olay, and they pass it down to the frontline operatives, the nurses and the therapists and the LNAs, who by their nature have a vocation of caring. They're smart, they know what's happening, they're not happy about it, but they know that they're the last line of defense for their patients. So they take the hit. But what's happening now is as more cuts come, same Olay's going on, nurses are taking a hit, but now the nurses who withstood that pressure are being asked to short sheet patient utilization. That turns the meek and mild, kind, compassionate, DNA'd nurse into Joan of Arc. They're not going to tolerate that. They will not be part and parcel to that, and that's why we have been able to go from 16 to 94 employees. They know we're not doing that, okay? They know that I rely on our nursing team, our experts, our licensed professionals to make clinical judgments about what's in the best interest of the patient. My line is I find the best people. We create an environment where they want to work together, do well, do better financially, get treated better financially where we're able. And when we have that in place, I make my magic move. And you know what that is?
Leave.
I get the hell out of their way. Okay? So we're here to thank you for what you've been doing to keep an operation like Nana afloat, okay? Without your assistance and generosity, it would have been long gone. And this is in no way, shape, or form a knock on the hard work and the effort of the people for 60 years that have been put into the community. Far from it. This is an opportunity for us to preserve that, enhance that, expand that for the community, okay? And it's happening. So, you know, it doesn't happen. Now, I'm only here for one reason. First off, my line is, hey, these are tough times, and there's a lot of things that are going on, obviously, that are making life more difficult in every facet of life. Whatever you folks deem doable, we're appreciative, okay? But I can assure you that every dollar that you've historically given is not only going to its purpose, all right, but now we're extending through our efforts double that, triple that amount of money that's going out in free and subsidized care. The benefit, obviously, is not only for the indigent, the underserved, the folks falling through the cracks, but also it enables us to maintain the staff that's required to get the job done right. That answers the first one.
Oh, Lord.
No, I'm joking. So I would say, unless I miss something, that would be my opening, and see if anybody has any questions or issues or concerns.
I'm sure we do. Walter, you want
Okay,
to
great.
start?
Yes, sir.
How many of Nana's employees are now with Lakes Region?
First off, we let nobody go. Nobody. And we had a bookkeeper, 2 nurses, and 1 LNA who's in school, cut down to part-time. That would be the extent of that. So everybody who was on staff, in addition to those people, is still employed. As a matter of fact, if I may, the 16 people I talked about being at LRVNA, and now we have 94, all 16 of the 4 year ago people are on staff, including this one right here next to me, right? So I think that's an indicator. We're looking to add good people, not lose good people.
And people chose to go in a different direction, recognizing that home care was harder than it was 5 and 10 years ago. It's a different layout. But
Well, you know,
yeah.
nationwide,
Yeah.
nationwide, the average number of visits a skilled professional does a day is about 5.5, okay? At LRVNA, when I arrived there, the number they were doing is 2.5 visits a day, but getting paid full time. Yeah. So you get into that situation, and that habit's baked in, that habit is blessed and approved. It builds a certain culture. And, you know, when you'd have somebody go to 3 or 3.5 and they'd be going like this, I'd say, you know, you're halfway to normal, you know, which didn't necessarily be well received. But the difference is, look at where we are now. We've had no turnover. We're not going to have turnover. We're adding staff. We've added staff, and frankly, we're getting calls every day. There are other agencies in the area that they're good at fundraising. We don't do that. They're good at galas, and they're good at this and that. But they're not having success recruiting people, retaining people. Granite V&A is a big operation you probably heard of. We've had 15 employees come over without solicitation.
And we have a new nurse in Bristol that actually came on to our services after we cared for one of her loved ones. So the
She worked
influence
at
that we
at
have-
Dartmouth,
yeah.
in a big job at Dartmouth
Big
in
influence.
oncology, and came over and signed up and now works for us full time. She's from this town. So these are good. These are what we feel good about. Okay. Does that answer your question, sir?
Pretty much.
I
I
circle things. I'm sorry.
there were other things I'm thinking, but
Go for it.
Yeah, throw them out.
I've been a frequent flyer, a frequent user. I've had some serious operations.
Me too.
And I've worked with a lot of other older people in town.
Mm-hmm.
And not that much older, but older.
Mm-hmm.
And it appears to them, and it appears to me, that the service went downhill. I understand things are tougher, and I'm not gonna be the most generous person to help make it tougher on taxpayers, but things have been tougher, and I've seen some things that I question. I had different services that I used from Nana that haven't been available in recent years.
Which ones?
Well, I can't reach my toes, so I had to get my toenails cut.
Okay.
And I went to Nana to have it, and it was always done, and I made a contribution that Nana was always happy with.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Did you say this is going back over a couple of years?
yep,
Okay.
and now that service is not available.
Okay. Well,
We weren't actually allowed to do that for a while during the pandemic. There were regulations on who we could have in the building and groups that we could do. But certainly that was something that we had, because we've always had a foot clinic at both agencies. And for a period of time, that was not something that was possible at that time. Depending on someone's health, we had to have specific orders. Whether you were a diabetic, whether you had peripheral vascular disease, there actually has been more regulations on what can we do as a community service without a doctor's order. So that is something certainly to bring to our attention to discuss in further detail, because if it's a service that's needed in the community, happy to do that or to work with someone.
mm-hmm. We had that in Meredith.
Yeah, we did. We used to
had
do it
that
at
in
the community
Meredith.
center.
We have exercise and balance classes. We have a host of programs that are given out to the community every month for free. Flu shots, obviously, that are distributed. So yeah, this is what we look to do. So if you have a
And that feedback is
problem
so
like
important.
that, yeah, we hear about it, we'll react to it. Must tell you though, on the surgery front, I had my favorite moment of late, because I've had more than double-digit surgeries, and they put me on a Zoom meeting with my 7 grandkids, and the 5-year-old the night before going into the hospital was queued up to say something nice to Poppy. She almost got it right. She leaned in, instead of saying good luck tomorrow, Poppy, she said goodbye tomorrow, Poppy. It was one of my favorites, right? So, been there, right?
I told the anesthesiologist the other day I didn't want to wake up. I meant during the operation.
Then you had a social worker next to your bed.
Corrected it.
That's funny. That's funny. You got me beat with that. Anyway, I'm sorry. Did you have another issue?
No, that,
You got it?
thank you.
That's my card.
He doesn't do toes. I do, just so you know.
Because I can't reach
Here.
mine either, so that's funny.
I'd like to follow up with a question. So, you mentioned that Lakes Region in the Meredith office had 16 people and you're up to 94.
Yes, sir.
So part of that is because you've expanded. So Nana, which was a separate operation, is now part. I'm guessing that means you've also done other mergers?
No,
It's just
No.
just the 2
just the 2.
offices?
Yes, Nana was a part of and is a part with us of the Rural Home Health Care Network. This is a string of agencies, Carroll County, North Country, Nana, Lakes Region, Franklin, Lake Sunapee, and Cornerstone. Okay, and these groups have come together for years, and that's how Nana got on my radar screen. And there was apparently an ongoing acquisition of Nana taking place for about 7 or 8 months before we were invited in. Plymouth agency, Pemmy Baker's another one, happened to be the one involved. I don't know or care about the details, but the deal didn't get completed. We were called in, and we jumped in, and it was pretty expensive and pretty crazy, and yet similar. It was so similar to the Lakes Region situation that we had a roadmap already, okay, tried and true, and we had a strong team that hadn't necessarily been there in numbers at LRB&A, but was there now. And many of our Lakes Region employees live in Bristol, in Alexandria and Danbury and surrounding towns, who are traipsing in. So not only did we initiate growth in Nana, but we had staff out here that could step in and augment the Nana team to get the job done. So this is not rocket fuel development, but it works, and it has, and we're proud of that.
Do you have or maybe you already gave us one, a handout or a list of how many people you have serviced in Bristol? How many patients
You know,
are-
I asked that myself, and what I have here is that since the merger, Nana office has gone from a previous 145 patients served, this is Bristol now,
Yeah, just Bristol.
providing 2,983 visits. And since that time, April 29, 2021, we've serviced 266 patients with 9,369 visits, okay? The other part of it that is important, I think it goes to your question, is that in our first year together, Nana's subsidized and free care has increased from $78,624 to $197,422. And I will add that going back to, we were in the same place in Meredith, this past year, combined with this 197, we combined for $1.2 million, I might have mentioned, in free and subsidized care. I would envision matter-of-factly being positioned to offer that extra $1 million of subsidized care out here. It's needed.
Yeah, it's needed.
And a lot of folks now, I didn't know one thing. I'm terrible, I'm sorry, but I didn't know one thing when I came up here. I didn't know that in the Lakes region, we had 3 or 4 counties that had the oldest population and the second oldest state in the union. Didn't know that, okay? But here's the thing I really didn't know, that because of the work ethic of the folks up in this territory, in this region, they paid their dues, whether they're lakefront or regular working folk, they paid their dues and they're eligible for services, right? 85% of the population has traditional Medicare coverage. And what that does when you're managing your business the right way, it enables us as a nonprofit to have an overflow, so we should be positioned to take care of the folks falling through the cracks. That's the reason. You go down to a major town, that percentage of traditional Medicare recipients, 25%, 30%, and hospitals and skilled nursing facilities are taking it on the chin and losing money on all of those non-traditional Medicare patients. It's not a good formula, but we're up here in an area where we should be positioned to do it the right way. That's our mission. That's what we're doing.
Anything else?
Yeah.
No.
So, we have been told by others, and the names are not relevant,
Not to me.
that there has been an increase of services. Therefore, they're looking for some money. And it sounds like you're saying the same thing. So are we looking at a community that all across the board we have an increase of need? So it sounds like
We're not
if I was
looking-
hearing those numbers.
We're
then
not
those
looking for
numbers-
anything more.
No. I'm asking.
Okay.
So the services that are being provided in Bristol are greater than they were last year. Doesn't matter how
By
many
us.
agencies are in here.
By us, yes.
Because there's patient choice, so you can't say as the town of Bristol, only Nana Lakes Region VNA is going to service our patients. That's illegal. Every patient, every person in the country has a choice of who comes into their home to offer services. It's an honor to come into your home to care for you. You get to interview who comes in. So
Got
if
that.
you go to your doctors, they have to give you a minimum of 2 choices. So other agencies are absolutely going to be present and offer opportunity. That's okay.
Right. but-
I was in
but-
Meredith at a meeting, sir, okay? Another agency was present, okay? This is our hometown in Meredith, and I was before the select board there in the past year. The other agency came in. They wanted, I think, $15,000 because they had taken care of 8 patients in the greater Meredith area, right? I don't know how that vote went, but compared to the 685 that we had taken care of, we were approved our historical stipend, okay? We're out here with the same thought. If the town has, I can only imagine, a list of priorities that need attention, and we're falling down that list, so be it. We'll take what you can give, and we'll be appreciative of it, and continue to do what I'm describing to you.
Yeah, don't misunderstand what I'm asking you.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like the need in this community is going up. So if 3 agencies come in and say we want X, Y, Z for dollars, and we say, well, we've always done it with only X, maybe we need to do X, Y, and Z. That's kind of what, does that make any sense? As we have more need, we have to put out.
I think
It
part
doesn't
of
matter
that.
how many, it doesn't matter how many agencies it is.
I think the other question you should ask is, how much are they able to provide? Are they able to say yes? If we're the agency that is consistently saying yes on a Friday night to an emergent hospice admission, to someone who has to come home for daily wound care that has IV antibiotics, when we talk about facilities and other agencies saying, I'm not going to take that one because it's a higher cost patient,
Again, that's fair. No, I
those
get
are
that.
those
I get
pieces that you dig into. Those are the questions to ask of, what's your commitment to the patients in this
Or
town?
if I may ask you, how many occasions have you had hospice patients being directed our way after other agencies have not been able to go out and start the case for 4, 5, 6 days?
Often. So that's the new norm if we can't get out. So let's put you on hospice. I'm sorry that you're dying, but someone won't be out to see you for a week, maybe 2 weeks.
Okay,
That
that's
time
fair.
is
I get
precious.
that. So if you were the only agency that we decided to fund, could you handle everything in Bristol?
We have been, yes. The only
Well,
occasion
the
yes,
additional
yes
that
is
you
the
haven't-
answer.
That you haven't been handling, that someone else has handled.
Yes.
The only reason we've grown is responding to cases that others can't fill.
Okay.
And
The only reason we wouldn't take a case is if it's not safe for our staff to be in there. The other piece is if it's not appropriate for them to be on home care, hospitals will say, well, just get them home.
Right.
And if it's better for the patient to sometimes say, actually, not accepting them, we'll get them accepted into a facility, we'll get them more services than what home care can actually do.
Okay.
And that's when we work with social workers in the community, in the hospitals, to say what's actually best for this patient. And if that means we have to go in free, we go in and do community service visits with the order from a doctor and not charge their insurance to get them where they need to be, hands down, it's what's best for patients every single time.
I get that. Yeah, that's fair, I understand.
So,
Thanks.
if I may, the other, one of the things, while he was saying that, we've had another agency that has approached us that basically, I believe they stated they saw 115 people last year, which is a pretty good amount to start with, so, it's for the same reasons. They couldn't get into another agency, or, whether it was a day or two late, or it was just their preference. I mean,
Yep.
that's
Patient choice.
exactly what happens. It's
Very
patient
important.
choice, they just wanna, go to here because it's easier, more convenient, or
Yep.
what have you. So that's the thing, but what it's telling us, and I think that's what he was driving at, is that even if you're saying there was 9,209 visits or 266 people that
Could we have handled another 100 and something?
yeah, and
Yes.
maybe not. Well, maybe you could, but maybe you're not. Or maybe they didn't, like you said, want to go there. So with that being said, that just tells us there's more people that are needing this service.
There are.
If,
No
I
doubt.
think
if you
that
had less,
the area was underserved before.
Yeah.
If you don't recognize what that need is,
yeah,
how do you know what services are out there?
Exactly.
And traditionally in New Hampshire, we're a stoic
Right.
crowd.
Yeah.
We don't want people coming into our homes. We
Right.
don't want to change
Right.
the way we, eat or our environments, or don't put a handrail up there because, and so part of that aging process, look at the age group that we have here. Not here, but here. Sorry.
Oh, hey.
Yeah, that getting in and developing these relationships and letting them realize this is actually a trusted relationship to have, that we want to carry not through our first appendix or our first hip, but through the end of life, is grossly important to the safety of your community. Keeping them out of the hospitals right now and out of any type of those urgent cares, doctor's offices, except for when they need to be there, is what's saving patients' lives right now. And I hands down believe that 100%.
right.
I think, Sue, we talk about this more and not waste their time with that
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah,
That makes sense.
I was gonna just go around,
Yeah.
you've answered my questions, I
Yeah.
found this
Thank
very
you.
helpful and informative. To be put blunt, I'd say I'm blessed, I have not needed home health care, so I'm certainly not an expert and just looking for information,
But
so.
hopefully you find who you want to be your partners in healthcare now before you need it. That's a big piece.
On that note, My observation is that people check out consumer reports for TV sets, cars, and the best deal that they can get.
Yes.
But until a health emergency is knocking on their or a loved one's door, they're not thinking about that, and they're not planning it and not anticipating it, okay? So if they're calling our place and getting people when they're at their most distraught, they're off balance, and if they're calling and our team, and we've assembled a team that gives off the vibe, we've called the right people, we've called the right place, and they respond accordingly. That's how we've grown, okay? We've had no marketing reps, no campaigns, no nothing. It's a word of mouth that radiates out from what I just described. It's happened for 4 decades for the people I've been associated with, and it's happening with this fine team that we've assembled now. So we're here for you, and
Any questions? We like to talk.
A woman came in from a competitive company, spoke to my HR person after meeting with me. She said, I worked in senior management for 15 years, and I'm realizing I spoke to the CEO there for a total of 10 minutes, and I just spoke to your Kevin for 20 minutes. And my HR person said, honey, you got off lucky. There's truth to that, right? Sorry about that, but we thank you for your time, folks.
No. The only thing I was gonna say is I'm from a healthcare background, so when we would call to schedule an appointment, a lot of it, at least, and it's changed, like you said, a lot of it would be, oh, you live in Bristol. Who do you have in Bristol? Lakes Region. We'd call you.
I know.
So that doesn't, it doesn't necessarily fit in today.
No.
It really doesn't, because the need is out.
It used to be that redlining where
That's
you
exactly
say-
what it was. It
you
wasn't because
say-
we preferenced you, but it was just that was
That
easier.
was what
That
it
was
was.
just what it was.
Understandable.
It was just how it
And
was.
if you have more opportunities to give better care to more
Yeah.
people,
Yeah,
that's more important.
yeah.
Or as a case manager, you're finding out after assuming that referral has been responded to promptly and professionally,
Yes.
to get a
Yes.
call from the spouse saying, I
Nobody
thought they
showed
were
up,
coming,
got a
right,
call. Yeah, exactly.
right, and
Yeah,
causing
that's
unnecessary suffering.
Yeah,
That's when,
Yeah.
That's when my hair's on fire.
There you
right,
go.
right. So the need is definitely, increased quite a bit as far as.
It is, and I have to say, kudos to your EMS and fire and police around here. They have done a remarkable job of working with their community healthcare, contacting us when they're at a patient's house. Recently had one where they contacted me directly and said, this is what their doctor's saying, and I know it's not true, it's not what the family wants. And we were able to get out and care for that patient in under 2 hours.
Yeah.
And that patient was able to pass peacefully in their home within 4 days. So your community is strong and they want to work together. And for me, what a blessing to know that I have that support behind me. That's huge. So you have to tell them thank you very much.
Tanea's husband's the fire chief in Sandwich, so she knows about emergency runs
And what they're
What they're up against.
going through too. And if it's a lifeline to have each other. So that's
Yeah.
strong community.
Any questions,
Okay.
I
Becky?
know. You guys are ready to take a nap. Sorry. Snaps.
Did you have anything else? Can we let them go?
No, all I can say is your services are really needed. I personally miss Nana, but your services are really needed. I have some friends that use your services every other day, and I haven't been there to hear it myself. I have heard considerable complaint from them.
Do you have an example
And
of
I heard
that?
you mention it about how you evaluate the treatment that they're getting and the recommendation you can make.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought the recommendation that Lakes Region made was kind of rough.
Well, I think that's definitely a conversation to have with me.
Yep.
And whether that we do that as a community group, that people get together and talk about what the community needs or wants or isn't feeling that they're being heard on, to me, that's very, very important.
Well, it was my understanding
Give
that
that to your
the
friends.
couple was told this is the service is available,
Mm-hmm.
and if you aren't happy with it, go to a nursing home.
I doubt that
Never
so
happened.
strongly
Never
because you know where the 2 last places I want anybody in this community to be right now, an ER
Yeah.
or a nursing home.
that's what his problem would cause.
Yeah.
No surprise.
So I think, Walter, that I would love to have you email me, call me, and let's sit down and have a conversation with these people as well, whether it's community outreach here, whether it's direct because they don't want to have that bigger conversation. But those are the pieces that if we don't know about, rumblings in the community doesn't get anything done, but bring it to where you want that action to happen.
Yeah, thank you. That's exactly where I was gonna go. I don't think that this is really part of this committee's responsibility, so I don't wanna take a lot of your time, but I want to encourage Walter.
To reach out.
He's got Kevin's card. Reach
Yeah,
out to
I'll-
Kevin.
I gave
put
Get
my
back
red
to
on
them. Give him
Good.
the whole boatload
Good.
of crap you wanna
Good.
give him and see how they respond.
Absolutely.
I'm your girl.
Absolutely, that's right up our alley.
But same thing with the community. If there's something that you see that needs to happen that you're hearing about, let us know. Just like
If you don't know, if you don't hear the complaints, it's
How do you
not
fix, how do
reasonable
you
to
fix it?
expect a
Yeah,
response.
Meredith said we want an exercise group, and we said, okay, here you go. I have almost 40 people going to an exercise class twice a week. If that's what Bristol needs, if that's what your community needs, you gotta let us know.
We would really appreciate it, be it email or phone calls, let us know, and then we will report back to you about what's going on, and you can report back to the committee here and give us a report, give us a report card on how our talk turned into action.
I will,
Looking-
Perfect.
with
looking
the aid
for-
of my wife who's more capable.
That's all right.
Than I am.
That's all
I
right.
will-
I got one of those too.
Good.
My wife's a nurse, and I know.
We're the
But you do
worst.
that, please. We'll look forward to it. That's not, it's out of the purview of the committee, but this is the good stuff.
But it's something the community needs,
This
so
is
I
the
want to
good stuff.
encourage it. I just didn't want to try to do it
No,
all
no,
right
no.
now.
We're, you have other guest speakers.
I know
possibly.
that are
Get out of the
My
way.
God.
So if there's none, I think you guys covered what you wanted to also, right?
Yeah.
I wanna
I mean-
thank you for
We're
coming.
doing some updates in the building. They're correct.
Oh, building, apparently, next time I merge, normally you rent places in home care because you're growing and moving and whatever. But similar to Meredith, we own and whatever the building. Building in the past week needs a French drain in the basement because of leaking and mold, and a new furnace that was installed in '83, and the air conditioning most likely on top of that, and the carpeting, okay, and
And new
painting.
gutters.
So we have these repairs that we've taken on, and again, the good news is that the numbers that people chastise me for hearing to brag about actually position us to. The guy's working on it. If you drive by the office right now, we've got people in there installing a furnace incredibly in one day. And they're in getting that done, which is miraculous.
Well, it's interesting because I had heard somebody last year say that, Nana had merged in, but that you guys weren't abandoning the building. And then actually at the town meeting last March, someone in the audience stood up and we were talking about the new public safety building.
I listened
They
to
said-
the meeting.
They said, well, it's right next to Nana, and Nana's going away because they merged with the folks in the other town, so let's take that. And somebody spoke up and said, no, Nana's not going anywhere.
Betty Seeler spoke up. Betty Seeler spoke up and said that's not happening, and Betty Seeler's on our board of directors. So she, along with another NANA board member, came over as we came together, and she is, if you know Betty, knows what the facts are and is going to let you know, right? And
So maintenance is happening.
She did at the meeting, but
Building's
that's,
not going anywhere.
that's not our intention. Some of those earlier merger conversations I have heard fell apart because previous groups were indicating that they were going to sell the building.
They'd centralize and sell.
And centralize and sell the building. So that was not our intention. It was very important to the board of directors of NANA at the time, and we made that commitment because it's home care. You got to be in the community you're servicing. You got to have a presence. And now, we do, and you know how to find us, right?
Hannah has always been a presence in this community.
Well, it almost wasn't, so I'm glad that it's being preserved.
I'm glad we got in touch with you and got you to come in
I'm
and
glad we
share with us.
finally read our
Thank you so
mail
much
that
for
came.
coming.
Okay. Folks, thanks for your time. We
Yeah,
really
have a
appreciate
great
it.
night.
All right, take care.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Look forward to hearing from you.
Thank you.
I will,
I bet you will.
I'll get a letter to you.
I got a feeling.
Walter, I'm going to add my name to the back of his card for right now.
Please
since I
do.
didn't read it.
while that's going on, I will move on to the next item on our agenda, which is budget goals and properties. So this is a little bit awkward. I will tell you that the person who requested this to be added to the budget was Charlie. And Charlie sent me an email this morning saying that a family conflict had come up and he isn't coming to the meeting. So I put it on the agenda with the expectation that Charlie would speak to his idea, and he's not here. So I don't think that this is something that should take a lot of time. I think what I would like to do is just give you the little bit of information that I got from Charlie, and then give everyone a chance to think about it, and we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting when Charlie is here.
That's a good idea, yeah.
So, what Charlie said to me was that I think what he said was that if we don't have a plan, we're not likely to achieve what he would like to achieve. And that instead of just going through the budget line by line, he would like to talk about, do we have a goal for what we would like to arrive at? And I think the numbers that he gave me was, he said, just looking at the operating part of the budget, so not looking at the capital items, not looking at water sewer, but just looking at what I call the operating. It includes, was that there was a 7.8% increase, and that he would like to propose trying to get that down to 5. My feeling is, I like the idea of having a goal. In my mind, it's important to recognize that it's a goal and not a commitment and not a must to do. I don't, according to Charlie numbers, that would be reducing the budget by about $150,000. I think we're gonna find that difficult to do. But if we don't aim in that direction, I don't know that we'll get very much changed at all. So I'm not surprised to hear you say that, Janet. I think actually that,
Because I started the first meeting saying we needed goals.
and I brought it up at the first meeting too, and I agree with you. But I would rather, and I think that
It doesn't cloud my judgment though.
I think that Rob might have some insights too, so I really would like to table this and discuss it at the next meeting when Rob and Charlie are here. And I don't think it prevents us from moving forward. If we want to go back and make changes to something we discussed today, we always have the option to reopen those things.
I'm very glad that Charlie wrote to you.
So unless there is an objection, what I'd like to do is just close that item and say we'll put it on the agenda for next meeting.
That's good, that's a good idea.
Okay? So now we move on to discussions on specific sections of the budget. Christina, do you want me to take them in order that they're listed on the agenda, or does it matter what order we do?
If you, I'm here anyway, so if you want.
So why don't we skip CIP since you're gonna be here for the duration? And we'll do the ones for the folks that are,
Oh, no, CIP is me too, so, well, your welfare and your TTCC, Kelly Park, Patriotic,
right,
those are the ones that are here right now.
Yeah.
okay. So, let me see. Capital improvement, property reappraisal, planning board, we'll wait on zoning, tax max, land use, we'll wait on that. Animal welfare, welfare administration and welfare services, let's do those first.
Guilty! That's me.
I'm sorry, which one am I looking at, which chart?
So I thought we'd go to welfare admin and welfare services.
4445.
4445. Yeah, it's in the middle
4441
somewhere.
and 4445.
Yeah, what she said.
But you were so sure.
Yeah.
You said it with all confidence.
With such confidence, is that
Right
right?
about one.
That's right, one of them.
Pages 18 and 19 on the printout.
My brain cells are
Oh,
gone.
we're ahead. Yeah, thank you.
So I think the way this works is we need to make a motion and second it to open up discussion, and then we have discussion. Is that correct, my expert?
Yeah.
So can I get Walter will make a motion to
Discussion.
introduce welfare administration in the amount of $11,983. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Janet seconds. So we have a motion that's been seconded, and now we will discuss, and we will start the discussion by asking our expert.
Do you have to vote on that? Just
No, we vote.
on the motion you just made?
No.
To have a discussion? The motion was to have a discussion, wasn't it?
No, we make a motion.
He's right.
We make a motion and we second it, and now we have discussion,
Yeah.
and then when we close discussion, we will vote on it.
Okay.
Okay.
It only took me 5 years to learn that.
All about
Robert's
words.
rules.
Yes, Robert's rules or whatever it is. So we're gonna do welfare admin first. Okay.
So most of the lines, obviously, under that section are pretty self-explanatory, as far as insurance, FICA, Medicare, retirement, etc. Unless anyone has any objection, I'll go straight down to the bottom two,
Okay.
unless you have a desire to talk about the top ones. So meetings and memberships, that is for 145. That is for a membership into the State of New Hampshire Welfare Association, which helps provide resources and information as to where to pass people to. So there's workshops, so there's the membership, and then there's a number of workshops throughout the year. There haven't been as many this year. We increased it last year because it really didn't allow me to go to any.
Right.
So that really didn't work. So of course increase it, and then they don't hold as many this year. Really? I'm like, come on, people. So I'd like to leave that at 150, just because those, 145. I'm on the wrong line. Hang on. Hey, that's better. Green line. That works. Yeah, just because those are valuable, informative sessions that just help shape different resources that are available out there, and changes to different legislature that's going on, and thoughts that are happening with other welfare directors. Because it was a thing I learned many, many years ago. You don't reinvent the wheel, you just reshape it. So if I can get an idea off of somebody else and go, I'm gonna tweak that for Bristol, it's a lot better than trying to figure out how to create it yourself. Office supply. Did anyone have any questions on that before I move to the next one?
No,
Hearing none. Okay.
we're pretty informal. We'll actually interrupt you if we.
Sounds good. I like that. I like that. Office supplies. Don't even say it, Christina. This line is a bone of contention for me. This line has been underfunded from my predecessors' period through the beginning of my tenure, to the point where I was having to borrow supplies from Christina. So
Well, let me speak to that, because you can say it's been underfunded, but in those years, we would get our office supplies from admin.
correct.
So
Correct.
Kelly didn't have to buy much.
Very true. Very true.
Listen,
But
I used to come up from the highway.
yeah, we used to, exactly, yeah. But like
We're not
Janet, I
fools.
didn't have a stapler that worked.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and that needs to come out of that budget, not out of the general fund.
Yeah.
So that was asked to be increased. Unfortunately, as you can see, others already overspent at $208 for this year. That is because, well, I'd really love an explanation from Bob, but I don't have one yet. The scanner that was purchased to last year in the 2021 budget, for some reason, was not funded out of the 2021 budget, despite the fact that it was put in during that year and came out of this year's budget. Hence, this is a line of bone of contention from me. So that's why that's overspent. The scanner, we had money last year to be able to buy that scanner, and that has assisted in trying to get the department a little more electronic, and get rid of the four-door filing cabinets, which obviously take up space, fire hazard, you name it. Moving forward, just trying to get things more electronic, easier for record keeping, and storage. Let's face it, we don't have an abundance amount of storage in the town. So I'd like to keep that at 150 to try and do what I was trying to do this year, which I didn't.
So can you just run through briefly, how many people do you service? Because to be honest with you, it's hard for me to to
It's
formulate your budget? How many,
Sure.
do you keep a track of who comes in when,
So,
which you really should,
yeah,
for safety reasons, if nothing else?
yeah.
So do you do that? Do you have a?
So most of the conversations that are had and meetings are held over the phone.
No, I mean customers,
Yeah.
people who need your service.
Yep, those would be the meetings I have. Those would be I refer to as clients.
Yeah.
So most of those interactions are done over the phone. So the beginning phase of it, this year I started, or midway through the year, I actually started numbering my applications because more applications were going out the door than were coming back in by tenfold. You know, for every 20 applications that went out, I maybe got one back, which is fairly normal. Talking again, part of those membership groups, talking to other welfare directors, that's pretty normal because people are like, oh, money, we'll go to the town for money, and then they realize what they have to fill in and what they have to provide, and they're like, never mind, I'll borrow $20 from mom.
But you know, it could come to the point that
Where it's the
you
polar
have to
opposite.
justify yourself.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything.
No, yeah.
I mean, it's true.
And there's there's a lot of interaction that's able to happen prior to an application coming in to point people in the right directions. And again, that's a big part of my role, is not just handing out the taxpayers' money for the town of Bristol to people who are standing at the door asking for money. It's finding other avenues for them to go to. And they
You
are
said that last year.
Yeah, and that is part of the town's welfare guidelines, is that they have to go to those other resources first, either get resources from them and that's not enough, or get denied from them and then come to us. We are a last resort. Unfortunately, the majority of people, I said it last year, it's a lack of education in that regard with the public, that is, I would say that is a more larger role in my role than anything else, is educating the people on where they can go, knowing those resources and sending them to the right directions. Yeah. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yep.
So I think this makes sense to me. My questions are a little broader in scope. So,
I'll try.
am I correct in thinking that there's some sort of state law or requirement that the town has to have? Because I thought you had said last year that if people show up and go for all those other questions and do everything, and then they still need, it's not a question of do we want to help them or not.
We
We're
have
required
to. We
help
are
them,
required
right?
by RSA
Okay.
to provide
That's
help.
what I thought
Yeah.
you were going to say.
Yeah.
So,
But that doesn't mean that you can't do exactly what we do.
no,
which
and
is-
I think the way you
Seven.
described it in the past makes perfect sense. It sounds like you're doing a great job. The one
I try.
I suppose the follow-up question I have is not maybe exactly for you, but on the salary line, it's $10,000. So this is obviously not a full-time position.
Correct.
How many hours do you work?
So originally
In this
my
position?
position, this was a stipended position, which was a $10,000 stipend per year.
Okay.
Do you remember when it was? Either one of the three of you. When did I move to full time?
Last year.
Was it last year? I believe it was last year I moved to, because my other role is I'm the fire department administrative assistant.
That's
For
what
those who are not aware.
I wasn't sure, but I thought so.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I have 30 hours down there, and I was, that first year of being the welfare director, I was averaging 10 hours a week, and it was then discovered that you couldn't be a part-time employee and a stipended employee.
Huh.
So the positions were merged and became a full-time position. So in the numbers terms, 10 hours a week for welfare, 30 hours a week for the fire department.
So I think you answered what was really my basic question. You are a full-time employee of the town.
Correct.
Working two
hats.
jobs. Two hats.
Yep.
So you spend 30 hours with Ben and 10
Yep.
hours running
Yep.
this thing.
Yep.
Okay. So what I was going to ask is, if you're working 10 hours in this job, why is there any money in for retirement? Because we only have to pay retirement for people working 35 hours or more a week. But I guess the
It's
answer is
40.
because you're working
Yeah.
40 a week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
1/4 of the total.
Okay. Well, I was hoping to find something.
Sorry.
So are you paid out of one?
I personally, I complete 2 time cards, one for the fire department and one
Okay, that's
for
what
this.
so that comes out of their budget?
Yeah, it was a
That comes out of
conversation I
this?
had with Bob
Yeah.
originally when the positions,
Yeah.
the 2 hats were placed.
Right.
Was to keep them separate, because if in the long run, 5 years down the line, that needs to go to 40 hours a week and we need to find somewhere else for this,
Right.
it's easier that it stays separated
Yep.
in the short term.
Gotcha.
Okay. I think that's it for my questions. Anyone else have a question? Does anyone want to make a motion to amend, or do we want to move on to voting as currently proposed?
Were we talking about the next section too, or just the admin?
We need to close out the admin, and then we'll open up a motion on the welfare services, but we need to close welfare admin with a recommendation for our for our budget committee recommended budget. I'm not hearing any motions or suggestions to make an
I will
amendment.
make it.
You'll make an amendment, or you want to make a, you want to move to? What, okay, I can help you word it. What do you want to say?
I'm all for moving to the.
Okay, you want to move to close debate and ask the question. I
Yeah.
don't think I have to call a vote for that. We're just going to go ahead and call a vote.
Okay,
So, all in favor of approving the motion to fund welfare administration, section 4441, in the amount of $11,983, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye, so I can actually see who votes.
I'm not quite sure I get this, because
I
I thought we
don't-
did it
I
at
don't
the
get that
end.
either.
I thought we do.
I thought we had to
this
do every
in front-
section. Am
No.
I doing something wrong here?
I think it can be done either way.
Yeah,
You haven't
We-
solved.
Don't you deliberate at the end, but I mean,
yeah.
The past minutes, it has been where they vote,
Section.
because I just actually went back and double checked to do my minutes currently, and they do have to vote. There was the
Last
first,
year we
second,
voted by section.
yeah,
And that's what I
And
thought we
then-
were doing
And
here.
then at the
Yeah.
end, you can choose to reopen the
The
section
section.
Correct.
yeah.
if you want to make a further change.
Before I open the second section, I wanted to vote on this first section.
Gotcha, okay.
So, is that clear?
that's clear.
Because I saw people not raising their hand.
This is the first time we've done this year.
This is the first time we've done it this year.
Yeah.
So, it doesn't preclude us, so just to clarify, what we're gonna do is we're gonna vote on a number for the bottom line of section 4441 welfare administration. It doesn't stop us in the future from reopening it and having further discussion, but we need to handle the budget section by section, and we've done it in the past, and I think it's the best way is to have a vote for each section as we go along and have the discussion. So, sorry to.
That's
take all
okay,
your
I don't
time
mind
here,
being the
but-
dummy. It's fine.
So, Walter is agreeing that we're gonna vote on 4441 welfare administration in the amount which is currently in the motion, which is the amount that the select board is recommended, which is $11,983. No one has made a motion to amend that number. So I'm kind of expecting that this is
Yeah,
routine, but we seem to have hit a bump. Is it clear to everyone what we're doing? Any questions? I'll try again then.
No, it's good.
Let's have a vote.
yeah.
So we're gonna vote on whether or not we will approve, a recommendation for welfare administration, section 4441, in the amount of $11,983. All in favor? Aye.
I,
I abstain.
All,
I'm abstaining.
thank you. So what I got was 4,
0,
1.
0-1.
4,
0,
Oh,
1.
one.
0, 1 for a vote. It has passed. We have 5 voting members tonight. Okay, I'm not sure why that was quite so painful, but we got what we needed to get.
We're on a roll. We got one.
One's done.
One step at a time.
This is
Carol.
good for me, I didn't realize.
Yes, I know you're new on
I
the
didn't
committee.
realize that you
ago.
voted on it in front of the person.
See, that's what I didn't
I thought they
think. That's
presented it,
what
went
threw
away,
me
and
off.
then you talked about
Yeah.
it.
That is usually the way it happens.
Okay.
It is. I didn't think it was.
I wasn't gonna ask her to step out and come back for the next section, and I didn't think we had any surprises, so.
No.
Well, and she can always, I mean, even if you close it, she doesn't have to leave your meeting. It's a public meeting, so she
Yeah.
could still sit and watch.
Right.
So, and she could come to deliberations as well, but.
Right.
All right, so, let's see if we can get, moving on to the next section, which is welfare services, section 4445. To start, I need a motion to consider the section in the, I can make the motion, can't I?
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to open discussion of section 4445 welfare services in the amount of $28,900. Can I get a second? Walter seconds. Discussion. Now, let's go back to, go ahead.
No worries. So obviously.
I didn't realize that I was
It's
a,
okay.
a comedian. I'm getting you laughing.
I spent 7 years on your side of the table, so I'll feel you. Don't worry.
Okay.
So this section, for those who aren't familiar, is basically the funding for services, hence the welfare services. So it's broken down into the different sections: food, medical, electricity, fuel, rent, burials, welfare expenses, which basically encompasses the other stuff. So I haven't made any changes from last year. As I said at the high-level overview meeting, I had thought about decreasing rent back down again to 15. We'd increased it to 20 a couple of years ago with COVID and evictions and everything else. But I'm seeing a sort of trend in my phone calls coming into me that is decided for me to leave it at 20. And then the other big one would be the electricity. Anyone who opened an electric bill in the last 3 months should be able to figure that one out.
Where do you sit?
Where do I sit?
Where do you sit? If we're paying electricity, where do you sit? Are you sitting down at the fire department, or are you up here?
This isn't my electric bill. This is electric assistance.
Oh, electric
This
assist.
is
is
wel-
all these services.
This is welfare services. This is basically aid we're giving to members of the town.
So then the 4,000 is for their fuel,
Correct.
their oil. Okay.
Yeah, honey, I ain't spending $4,000 on
high.
fuel a year. I'm not spending $4,000 on fuel in a year. That's to help people.
Will be this year.
Oh, yeah. I'm not to heat my little space.
So do you sit up here?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of move around a bit, depends on what's going on, but yes. I have a little space downstairs in the front office. So as I was saying, electricity was the one that I had considered increasing this year just because of the way things are going with electricity. But in speaking with Tri-County CAP, they seem to have some pretty good funding going on, so chose to leave it. Yeah, not to put it in the simplest form, but it's a bottom line budget. And so at the end of the day, if we go over on electricity and we're under on rent, it's a bonus. It's if we're over on both of them that we got a problem. Burials, as you can see, burials have kind of been the one that I've actually spent money out of this year. It's just the wildest thing. I've been doing this for, I think, almost 2.5 years now, and this is the year that I've had the most phone calls for burial assistance. So it's just wild,
Wow.
And we have a cap at 750, and there's a couple of facilities, I'll use the term facilities, that work with municipalities on the 750, because most municipalities have a max of 750. And so that's where families tend to go to is to those groups to bury their loved ones, and that's where it goes. So otherwise, if you can go to some of the other companies and it's $2-3 grand for a simple cremation.
Yeah, 750 sounds.
So it's pretty reasonable. I've left it just at 750 realistically. It's one burial.
person.
It's one person. As I said, I've had numerous phone calls this year. Some of it's worked out. This sounds awful. My Lord. So it's worked out to our benefit because the funeral homes have worked with the family to set up fundraisers, etc., GoFundMe accounts to help them pay for it on their end, and so it hasn't cost the town any in the long run. But again, it's $750 spent this year out of the requested $28.90. It seems like it's peanuts compared to the big bag. This could very easily be the opposite way around. Could be $750 over. Could be $7,000 over. At the end of the day, welfare has to be funded. And if there's not money in the welfare lines, it's got to come from somewhere, and that becomes those three people's problem, plus her.
Right, I understand.
As much as trending the last few years has gone down, we're all wanting to increase the budget. I get it. The risk of dropping those lines down from back 10 years ago, they've been dropped considerably. To risk dropping them further could just be detrimental. And I think we're just shooting ourselves in the foot. So I've left them where they are. Hopefully the trends will continue in that direction. The organizations and services will continue to get federal funding, and there are other sources for funding that they go through, and I can keep filtering people in those directions for the foreseeable future. Knock on wood.
I'm ready to
Sorry, Les.
So this sounds very familiar to the discussion we had last year. You're doing a great job managing the department. We're not spending very much money, but if the demand comes in, it's not an optional thing. We have to do it. So you and the select board have asked for money to be there. Hopefully we won't spend it, but if we need it, it's there.
Right.
I would just like to buy a stapler this year out of my office supplies.
I have a couple of extra.
I
can go donate it.
That was in welfare admin, and we've already covered that, so not to worry.
I got an extra one for you now.
Oh, nice.
There you go.
I think they have some at the White Farm in Concord. So.
Thanks, Carol.
They weigh 10 pounds.
They might shoot.
I might shoot staples across the room, but there you go.
So, does anyone want to make any motion to amend? Anyone want to change anything is what I'm asking. So if that's the case, we will go ahead and move the question. So we're going to vote on approving a recommendation for funding welfare services, section 4445, in the amount of $28,900. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
Abstain? So same thing, 401, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, you nailed it on those two sections. Now you just got 29 pages to go.
And now we will move on to TTTC.
Les has the floor.
It's 4520.
Thank you, I thought it was just the next one in the budget. but-
Yeah, I apologize. I thought it had emailed out to everybody to go to the budget committee, but the way my life was, it may never have gone out.
If it's sitting in my inbox, yes.
I can only hope.
25 times.
So it's the top of page 20.
Okay.
So I have a question as a selectman, you and Sean. When you sit down to do the budget and then, and then we get the budget, how do you come up with those numbers?
Which numbers?
How do you come up with a budget of, well, I was gonna say tablets, pages, or
let-
whatever.
Les.
How do you know?
Les, before you respond, let me make a motion in a second
Thank you.
to justify
I'm not sure that
discussion.
question's related to TTCC though.
No,
Okay,
this is not, it's just every year I look and I see, Board of Selectmen. Well, how would they guess how much, I know you talk to the department heads.
We go through the same process you go through with the department budgets, talk to the department heads, see what they might be able to live without, what they absolutely have to have, and then we submit our number. So we basically do the same thing you're doing. and come up with what we think is a fair number.
Okay,
Any
so
input
let
on
me
that?
just jump in here now to get moving forward. I'm gonna make a motion to fund recreation, section 4520, in the amount of $115,203.
I second it.
Sue will second that, and now we will discuss. I think normally we'll start discussion by asking the subject matter expert to make some comments.
I feel like we've done this a couple times.
We have, so I don't think you're gonna surprise us.
So, this year, I think, my brain is not working right. What happened this year is, part of it is from COVID, with the increase in the budget, and we were very fortunate to get a lot of grant funding during COVID. Historically, the community center staff has been highly underpaid, at least the hourly staff certainly has. Many of our summer staff were at $7.25 an hour. Now they could go, to McDonald's and not have to deal with lots of screaming kids.
They might be able to set up a lemonade stand.
Exactly. So when we got the COVID funding, we said, this is the time we're going to increase, because we continued to work through it. We were only closed that March, April, and May. We ran camp that June. And so we said, this is the time. So we went up $3 an hour on our hourly wage. And so now we've come out the other side, and those funds aren't there anymore, which always, to me, always happens with grant funding, that at some point you're gonna have to figure out how to sustain it. And so this is where we're at. We have to be able to sustain it, because we're not gonna drop them back to what they were.
No, how
or
many
staff.
people are involved? How many?
So we have, with summer staff, we have about 29 staff. So that's when we're all there. That's our spike is in the summertime. Right now, we're about 20 with after-school program. So, and all but 3 of those are part-time. So there's only 3 full-time staff there. So the committee got together, and what we've always done is, well, historically, at least in the last 10, since I've been there, is we'll look at, okay, let's look at the fair share numbers, what town's using it the most. And the numbers pretty much lay out the same percentage over the years. But with Hill coming into the Newfound district, their numbers spiked. So we went to Hill and said, you're gonna see a significant increase, but we'll do it over 3 years so that it doesn't hit you all at once. So we wrapped that up in 2021. And then the same thing we've done with Danbury and maybe Alexandria over the years, where we've had to say, okay, your numbers warrant you paying more of a percentage. And the towns have been really good about coming up with that and doing it. So this time we said, what is the amount we need to raise in the budget that we're not going to be able to raise fundraising, we're not going to be able to raise through donations? What is the bottom line figure? And we came up with, we need $30,000.
Right, so last year you asked, I'm looking at the table at the bottom of the second page. So last year you asked for towns to fund you for just over $200,000, and this year you're asking for $230,000.
Yes.
And the fair share numbers change a little every year, but they're pretty basically
pretty
don't
consistent.
change a lot.
Hills have changed over the years. Hampton and Alexandria usually stay right about the same level, and then Bristol's typically between 38 and 40%. So that's what we did. We said, okay, now we have 30,000. Now we'll allocate it by the share amount, and so we put that out to all of the towns. This is the new amount. And the other thing, because we've just come out of a strategic planning session in March, is that, and we've heard it from the towns before, don't wait until you have to have a bigger sum. Go up in small increments over the years, because it's an easier sale and people understand that you're gonna have to go up a little bit. But don't.
You mentioned that at the
And
earlier
we've tried to
meeting,
hold the
so
line for so long, because it's not fun to go out and ask the towns to give more. But they are getting a lot more bang for their buck than they were, 10 years ago, 15 years ago even. It's just times have changed. So that's how we came up with the figure, and that's what Bristol's fell at.
anyone have a question or a comment?
The only other good things about teaching.
Thank you. The only other, because you haven't seen this yet, we did in scholarships, so we keep track our scholarships by town too. And so we did give out $12,549 in scholarships to Bristol families in the past year, to date, this year.
And let me see your revenue side, I'm gonna go a little deeper to get, I assume it's on here on the expense
It's the last
side.
page.
Yeah.
The last page doesn't show it under expense.
Can I just ask, when you're asking these towns for the amount that, you're asking them to kick in a little bit, what's it based on, the town itself, how much they can pay? What is it based on? Like the percentage of the people in the town, and the money?
No, it's
that's
these fair share numbers, it's very similar to the school district. So it's based on how many people from your community are using the center.
using it, okay.
And those numbers don't change a lot over the years, but like I said, Hill changed significantly because they became part of the district and those kids were coming.
Right, okay.
But for a town like Groton, one family could move in and it changes significantly just because they're such a low, I think they're 2%.
So,
Is the insurance, is that health insurance for the directors? It's not like life insurance, right?
No, we don't have life insurance.
It's health insurance?
It's health insurance, so
Yeah, okay.
it's, and really what it has been the last few years is a stipend because we both are, the full-time staff are all insured under other
Through-
policies.
Are you insured through the town?
No,
Or insured?
no, my husband, I'm insured through my husband.
Oh. So you don't use our insurance?
Well, we wouldn't use your insurance anyway because we're a nonprofit, we're not a town department.
We're not a town department.
Okay.
And the select board members are not insured.
Yeah.
Yeah, if only. I mean, if the budget committee wants to put that in.
so, I hadn't seen these before, I actually do have a follow-up question. So I'm looking at the last page for the additional TTCC budget info. We've got fair share numbers. So, you're saying Bristol uses 38% of the services and therefore should provide 38% of the funding, right? So,
Yes.
okay. But if I go back to the second page, your middle column for the increase, for a $30,000 increase, 11,400, that's roughly, that sounds about right. But the column to the left of that, of the base 200, Bristol pays 103. That's more than 50%. That's not 38%.
So historically, Bristol has always paid more than their percentage. So the fair share numbers that were started years ago, we were in Bristol. We are in Bristol. So Bristol has historically paid their fair share amount of more like 50%. This year, though, we based it on the 38%, the actual usage. And that goes historically way back to when they started because the buildings in Bristol residents are able to get there easier than outlying towns. So that predates me, how those percentages were arrived at. But now we're just running the basic, what are the actual share numbers? And the budget may not tie into that because we're basing it off of the old original documents of when it started. So Bristol has always paid more than their actual percentage.
Okay.
So the 103% was like 50%, is that?
103 out of 200 is
103.
above 50%. So
Above
I was just
50%.
pointing out that it's not 38 unless his answer was, yes, it's never been 38, it is what it is.
But
That's
this
what she
year it
said.
is 38, you said, right? Or no?
This year, the percentage increase is based on the 38%.
On the 38%.
The increase.
Just the
only.
increase,
Yeah,
the
not the
38,
base amount.
not the basic,
The-
okay.
The base rolled over,
Yeah.
but the 30,000 additional funding was allocated based on the
Based on
fair
the
share
share.
Yeah.
ratios.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, it's confusing, and I mean, we've batted around over the years, how do you make that better formula? But it's very similar to what the school district has done, trying to look at their formula, and there's no,
That turned into a
doesn't seem
big
to be
political
any
stink last
easier
year.
way to do it, so. So that's how we've kept it.
I understand, I heard what you said, I think I understand. I guess my first thought is, well, wait a minute, if the facility is in Bristol and it's easy for people from Bristol to get there to use it, then we would get more usage and we would have a higher fair share number. So I'm not sure that I love the answer, but it is the answer and it is the way it is, and I can.
It's actually not the whole answer though,
Oh.
because there's a couple of other details that go into that. So whoever used to be the superintendent of recreation, is also the superintendent pseudo of Kelly Park. So the center takes over the management of Kelly Park as far as what needs to be done, getting quotes, all of those types of things. We do all of the booking of Kelly Park, so anything that gets booked to Kelly Park has to come through us. So they've never had anybody that had to do that in the office. And that's from what...
I thought you just did that because you're on the select board and on the Kelly Park committee. You do that because you're the executive director of the TTTC.
Yeah, and
I did not know that.
It's actually in our bylaws that person, that is part of what they have
Part of your
to
job
do.
responsibilities.
Yes,
So-
and it's worked out really well for all of us because we're on the park a lot. So, and then the school goes through us, and we have a great relationship with the school. So we're able to do, and being on the park, you see what needs to be done and when it needs to be done. So it's been a really good relationship, but that comes from back in Wayne Tapley's time in the 50s. So that's just one of those things that's when it started, and it's just stayed that way. And I think it works out good. I mean, I think it's been good for the town.
We even schedule our events through them. If we get somebody who has to apply for a permit, we're contacting the TTCC, is the park available?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, okay, put this on the calendar, and then I go back and handle the permit application. So they maintain that schedule.
And then the other property that we do full maintenance on that costs the town nothing is Wells Field. Wells Field is actually leased to the town of Bristol from the state of New Hampshire state of New Hampshire. So it's owned by the state highway.
So
that
the state
property.
highway has a depot up there. They actually own that
They
land.
own Wells
And
Field.
they lease the land to the town.
To the town.
But the town has TTTC
And the
managed.
town has an MOU with us, which probably has to be updated. But we've never asked the town for money for that field. Every improvement we've done, the center has fundraised.
It's looking really good.
Oh
It
my
looks
God,
nice.
yeah.
It's
That's
a great
beautiful
field.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, we've also paid for many improvements at Kelly Park. So we put additions on the back of the dugouts, so that people could store their gear there instead of having the garage at the school wasn't open to us. And
Like behind
it's
the
pretty deplorable, so.
Box Gardens. That garage.
So if you were at the softball field, which is closest to the middle school, you'll notice that there's storage built onto the back of the dugouts.
Okay.
It may be on the baseball side. I was trying to figure it out the other day, but I can't remember. When the scoreboard went up, the 2 scoreboards, the center paid for half of that as well. So it's been a really good working relationship. But those the additional things that we do for Bristol that we're not doing for any other town.
Is Bristol the only one that uses that field? Well,
The park?
yeah,
No, because being a regional,
yeah.
you have all the time, and anybody can come and use the parks. They don't need.
But it's leased to Bristol.
Oh, we talking Wellsfield?
Wellsfield, I'm talking about, yeah.
No, that's
Strictly.
all of our kids are from all over the place, so all over the district, so they all use that field.
Right. So, but I'm saying, does Bristol just pay for the lease? I mean, it's leased.
They
to
don't pay
Bristol.
anything.
They don't pay anything.
It's free.
It's just a straight
Yeah.
lease, okay.
And, we've added and added and added out there, which
Yeah.
every time we have to get permission from the state to do that, and every time we add something, we just added the playground in memory of Hazel Roy. And every time we do something like that, the state's like, we're never gonna be able to take that back.
Yeah.
Because,
That's good though.
can you imagine the outcry? And they have talked about whether we wanna try to purchase it, which I wouldn't be a big fan of having to do that, but.
You could buy it for $1.
If we could buy it for $1, yeah. So, but with the state, I think there's some sort of process where they have to offer it to like a whole bunch of other entities first. So we might lose it to affordable housing or something if they decided to go that route. So we're kind of happy with the status quo.
Yeah,
And it is a great spot.
Any other questions, comments?
Comment,
Go ahead.
there's no money I'm happier to see spent on what gets spent on capital.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, Walter.
And Wink thanks you.
And your employees have been there for a long time,
Yeah.
besides you.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
Dan and I, he's only 5 years short of what I've been there, so.
Is he? Wow.
Yeah. He's waiting for me to step away. Said that on camera. Sorry, Dan.
All right, so if there is no motion to amend, I will move the question. We will now vote on the motion to fund the recreation line of the budget, section 4520, in the amount of $115,203. All in favor, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. So that was unanimous, 5-0-0.
Thank you.
That passes.
And it's appreciated. The support is appreciated.
Well, don't go too far, because the next
I know.
section is Kelly Park.
I wasn't leaving.
So that is on the same page down below. I'll make a motion to consider or to fund the Kelly Park portion of the 2023 Bristol Town budget, section 4522, in the amount of $39,898. Walter seconds. We will now discuss.
So really, the only change is $101, I think.
Yeah,
That
you
went
went from
up.
38.9 to 39.8, so $900.
And we underspent this year, so we'll end up close to 30,000 spent out of that 30, almost 40. And that's because we never could find somebody to take the position. We're trying to hire somebody to do that position. Hopefully we'll get it out maybe in February and have somebody in place to do that. It's really needed.
Is that the grounds position?
It's the grounds
Yeah.
position. You really need somebody on that park. And, you know, a lot of these things have been pushed onto highway over the years. And it's wonderful that they've been willing to do it, but they're doing it, you know, when they can do it. And so there's things that really need, on a playground, need to be watched constantly and have somebody there and aware. And it's, you know, redistributing the wood chips. It's the little things like that that go undone because there's nobody to do them. And so we really, and now that person would also be able to assist with the downtown decorating as far as watering and weeding and things like that if needed. Any of the parks, so Millstream, any park that was in town they could help with.
So how do you advertise for a position like that? Because you can't go on our website, on the Bristol website.
Well, we could for this, because
You could.
it's a town
That's right.
department.
So it would be a percentage to the town and a percentage to you.
Nothing comes to the
This is
center.
not a Tapley Thompson
No,
item.
this is all town. The next-
Kelly
this is all-
Park is part of the Bristol
Yeah.
budget.
Okay.
The reason I present Kelly Park goes back to,
That
I
you're
have
the
to
manager
be
of
the
Kelly
chair of
Park.
the committee for Kelly Park, and so that gives me the
I see.
honor of presenting our budget. So, and then the other piece of so that's where we're underspent this year. But it also, if you have a current budget, it looks like we haven't spent any of the master plan funds. And that is not, we have not maybe expended those as yet, but there's 12,270 that's being encumbered because we need to have the tennis court resurfaced next year. So I was unaware, and I'm shocked because we have so many pickleball players on the court. I guess Dan probably had heard it more than I had, but there are some pretty serious cracks in the tennis court, and it has been a long time since we've done it, I think.
Yeah, you have to do it about every 7 years.
And it's used constantly with pickleball
Oh,
and tennis, but pickleball
I
has
think you had mentioned
just
it before, and I noticed
exploded.
that the net and the posts have been taken out. I thought that was in preparation to do the surfacing.
So, no, they take them
That's
out
just
every
for the winter?
winter.
Okay.
Yep, they do take them out every winter. I'm glad you said that, because that was the other thing I needed to look at. So what we've done is the Vermont Tennis Court came in and quoted, and so I gave that to Bob, and we'll encumber those funds, and it'll be done in the spring. The other piece of that, which we will be paying out of this year's budget, is Eagle Pond Studios, Studios, that might not be right. Maybe.
Well, you have something we don't, but that, because there's no line for
Yeah,
Eagle
these are
Studios,
my.
but that's okay.
Oh,
That's your
it
notes.
is. It is Eagle Pond Studio.
Okay.
That is for the work that we're doing to come up with the design for the building, the redesign of the pavilion will stay, but the roof line will get tied in, and the building will be extended, and the bathrooms will actually be where bathrooms should be, nearer the back, and the actual concession spot will be nearer the front. And so that's in the long range plans for Kelly Park. The committee is very hopeful to be able to, either get CDBG or write grants. They're not looking to come with a big warrant article to the town. But this design will help us to start accessing funds, because we'll have an actual finished design to go out with. So that,
Is that maintenance and repairs?
no, that you won't see the 7,500 there, because it's in that 20,000 line that looks like it hasn't been expended. So
So it'd be the 12 something plus the 75.
it's the line 820-4522-820.
Oh,
Last
okay.
one.
Yeah, I see.
So it looks
We have
like
an
no money's been spent, because those two things are going to come out of that line. So they will be spent.
So that Jack, who does the fertilizing?
Yep.
What line does he go on?
So he's coming half out of maintenance repair, half out of materials and supplies.
Oh, okay, so you're splitting material and supply.
So this year, so that's next year, we moved it. So in next year's request, 7,500 will come out of maintenance, because historically it's always been the 4 and 4 or 35 and 35, whatever it was, split between the two. But it makes no sense, because now we're under contract with Jack. We know an exact figure of what it's going to cost us.
Yeah.
So that's where he is.
Right, we're not buying the chemicals anymore. We hire Jack and he buys the
Exactly.
chemicals
And the
applies
park
them.
looks amazing, so it's been great.
Yep, that was the change, and then the other 900, but your $900 increase is all on your electricity line, so that doesn't seem unreasonable right now. We're all
Sadly.
getting batteries in our electric bills. Other questions or comments, or are we ready to move the question? I think we're ready. Okay, so we will now vote on funding for Kelly Park, section 4522, in the proposed amount of $39,898. All in favor, say aye and raise your hand, please.
Aye.
That is unanimous, 500.
Thank you on behalf of Kelly Park Committee.
All right, after Kelly Park is patriotic, which is, maybe since we're on this page, you want to do beaches next? She doesn't do beaches.
Thank you.
Let's do patriotic then.
Oh, come on,
But I do support the
Top of page 22.
Say it again.
Top of page 22.
Thank you.
So I will make a motion to consider the funding for the budget patriotic section, which is 4583, in the amount of $28,100.
I'll second.
Sue seconds, and now we will discuss patriotic.
So this, all I'm here to discuss is the community events and special events coordinator. Downtown decorating is a separate committee, and patriotic purposes is flags and things, is it? So that's not under my purview as a committee.
So you're just going to do you're primarily going to do the first two lines,
First
the
two,
coordinator and
yep.
the events.
First
Okay.
two lines. So, God, probably been 15 years or longer when Greg Gorski was here, and we built the pavilion down at Kelly Park, and then we started the concert series, and it's been awesome to be able to do that down there. So we had hired a special events person to hire the performers, and then that committee has just exploded with, now we do 2 brochures a year that go out to all the businesses and hopefully in the rest areas at some point. And so those are produced, and we gather all the events that are gonna happen, not just Bristol. Did you find it?
No,
Page,
4583.
page 22 at the top.
No,
no, it's
No,
not,
it's
it's not
not.
here.
not on his.
You have a different budget than we
I
do?
must have,
It's not here, you don't have it.
Well,
I do that all
And
the
you
time.
thought I
on
was
my
the
old one.
troublemaker.
That looks totally
it
different.
looks very
Doesn't it?
different.
Yeah.
Is it set
Oh.
November
Yeah, look on
15th?
page 22 of that one.
Does it have November 15th in the corner?
No, the 14th.
Do you
Are
have
you
the
sure
right
that's
one,
the same?
Walter?
Is it on?
He's got one,
22?
he's getting there.
I got it in this
Oh,
one.
okay.
Okay.
I was in the wrong one. I
Okay,
got
we're gonna put this up here right
It
now.
changes every time, and I always bring my old one, and then I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't have the same page numbers as
Right.
them. So, that committee has just grown and added events, and now it's the Scarecrows contest and the Halloween they are organizing, and they've really taken on the only thing they haven't taken on is fireworks. And so we have been paying Claire Moorhead's company, the Creative Promotions, that fee, $8,500 for quite a while. But we've added so many events over the last few years. So I was supposed to put that up to 10,000 and I didn't. I didn't. I think I submitted it before I had hers. But that's okay, because we can make it work between the patriotic community events and the events coordinator.
So is she leaving? Is she still?
No, she'll still be doing it, but she has submitted that her fee is gonna increase next year because she's added so many events to what she's covering
So
for
she's
us.
coordinating the brochure and
She
the
does all of
scarecrows and
the
tree
brochure,
lighting
all
and-
of our marketing, advertising, she's
Yeah.
on site for the events.
Contacts for
She
concerts.
books all of our concerts,
I knew she did
takes
that.
care of the
Who is this?
contract. It's Creative Promotions, Claire Moorhead.
Oh, Claire, yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah. So she did the bicentennial.
Bicentennial, yeah.
So yes, so that's really,
You're gonna be shocked at this. I bump it up to 10. And the reason being, her brochure today is so different than the one she used to put out.
yeah,
She has much more color.
yeah.
And she has things, now, of course it was a couple months ago I looked at it, but she had things in it that I hadn't seen before. That's just my opinion. I think she's doing a fabulous job.
Yeah, she really does a great job, and those brochures have become something that people count on seeing. And it's no easy feat gathering all those events, just because you're trying to reach out to everybody, and it's not just Bristol. I mean, we're trying to make sure you have Human Fair. I was the one that messed up on the date for Human Fair this year in the brochure. I apologize, Claire shouldn't let me touch it. But yeah, so those are all things that she does, and she does very well. And
And if you had to replace her?
I don't know. I think I'd resign from the committee.
So,
Well, I went to an events meeting. It was very interesting.
It is.
I am sure Chris told you I was there, because I walked in and everybody's, what are you doing here? So it was very interesting.
Oh,
I
we would
was about
welcome.
the ice skating.
So yes,
Yes.
so this ice skating that she speaks of is, there's been this rumbling to get an ice rink in town. And it's been gone on forever, so, are you shutting me down?
no, he's making faces behind you about his opinion.
So, you don't wanna hear about the ice rink? Leave
As
it.
long as everyone else is gonna do all the work.
Right, exactly, no, I agree.
Funny, that came up at the meeting too.
So
Yeah.
this, what Claire did is that we keep getting all these requests about doing it, so she put it out to set up this meeting, that people could come to like an open forum and say, okay, what do you want, and are you willing to?
Oh, no, I saw the notice in the paper, and I've been here long enough that I remember when we used to have it, and I thought it was interesting, but I didn't want to volunteer and I didn't go to the meeting.
So what, they're not looking at bringing those old boards out.
No.
What now, they've come up with two potential options. And one is to put it on the tennis court because other towns have done that. And my thought is if there was a year you're gonna do it this year before
Yeah.
you resurface to make sure it's not gonna damage it. Or the other piece was potentially under the pavilion where you'd also have lights. So those are, they have another committee meeting coming up. And it's a pretty gung-ho group, but they're gonna have to step up and put the labor in. You're gonna have to have a group that's willing to put the labor in. And that's what killed us the last time, is that group put their heart and soul into it that one year, and it killed them.
One slush storm and you're done.
Oh my God. Not under the pavilion though, maybe.
That's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
but
if you're
I-
gonna have to put a, never mind, that's not.
I don't think the ice skating rink is something the budget committee, you're not, nobody's
no,
asking for money for it,
no.
so we don't need to
But
worry.
it is something the community events is trying to help facilitate.
I wanna go back, since I've overcome my shock, and just point out, I think, Janet, you need to make a formal motion and get a second, and then we'll vote on it, because if you wanna change a number, that's how we do
Oh,
it.
God, not.
Do you wanna make a motion to change the number, or do you
We're
wanna?
talking $1,500. I mean, we're not talking a lot of money.
I understand.
So what do I say, Sean? You always,
You make a motion
Yes, to
to
make-
amend the line number, which.
Line 120,
okay?
from the 8,500 to 10,000, I think is what you wanna say,
Yep.
right?
Yep. So, did you get that?
So I will
I saw her lips move.
So Janet has made a motion
Yeah.
to amend line 120 of section 4583 from 8,500 to 10,000. Do we have a second? Walter seconds. Do we need to discuss, or can we go right to a vote? Anyone have any comments or questions?
I have one question.
Go ahead.
What liability does it expose us to?
What part of it?
The town?
It doesn't.
If
She's
something
doing,
happens,
no, this is,
Are you
this is,
talking about,
insurance?
are you talking about the ice rink?
Yeah.
This piece has nothing
we're
to do
not
with
voting on the
that.
ice rink, we're just voting on raising the amount of money for the, I forget the.
For the events
Special
coordinator.
events
And
coordinator.
that came up with me.
Yes.
This
And
is,
Chris was
this
gonna
is,
talk to you about the insurance.
Claire and her company had said she was raising her rates from 8,500 to 10,000. But Les didn't change the budget request. So Janet's saying, she really is worth the 10,000, let's just go ahead and update the budget number to 10,000. That's what we're voting on. We're doing nothing with the skating rink.
No.
There's no additional liability, there's no additional responsibility. It's just
You
paying
gotta
the person.
remember, he had surgery less than 2 weeks ago.
Yes. So
So-
it's just,
Yeah.
I think the concern that I'm hearing from is that if she's put us on notice that she's gonna give us a bill for 10,000 and we tell her we're only paying her for 8,500, are we potentially alienating her? And I'm hearing we don't want her to quit, so
That
Janet's
is
saying,
my
let's
thought.
pay her the money.
Yeah, I never do that.
Remember that conversation when we were talking about the town employees too?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so we're gonna vote on the motion, which is to amend line 120 of this section from 8,500 to 10,000. All in favor, again, raising your hand and saying aye. And opposed? And abstaining.
I'll stay in, yeah.
Okay, so it's 302, it does pass.
For my budget.
You just came to support me? Thank you.
Okay, so, was there anything else, or can we vote on the whole patriotic section now? Is there anything else you wanted to bring up?
I
You
just
want-
wanna add, I didn't think of inviting the decorating committee, that's my fault, I'll take responsibility for that.
Which one? Which committee?
Decorating.
Oh, decorating, okay.
That's in the, that's.
They're included in this budget, and it's just that one line, but they decorate for every event that you see decorated for the downtown, and that's the money that they use for doing those events, decorating and whenever they need to buy supplies. It also covers, I believe, the flags when they have to be replaced, but I can certainly ask, Lucille to come attend a future meeting if the budget committee wants me to do that, so.
No, because
I would-
they would even increase their amount
I
either, so they, you know.
think if we were to, I guess, if they want to come and talk to us, we certainly won't turn them away. but since I expect we're going to approve their request, I don't think there's a need
Right,
really to talk.
And then the
No one's-
bunting line, just as.
I do have a question about that though.
Go ahead, Matt.
It may not be about that. Down on Lakeside Road, where I used to live, there's a bunch of flags on telephone poles. That is not the town.
That is not the town,
Okay,
because
thank
we
you.
can't do that.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah, that's,
We can't.
I keep
How
wanting
come?
to say you.
can't use
You have to have
telephone
a
poles.
pole- You have to have a license to put it on the poles. And
you're always under.
Unless you live.
Unless you live in Hill.
Unless you live in Hill.
Well, I was gonna say, because I see them every.
They took all of our decorations down, made us take them all down one year. We used to have decorations that were on the poles.
Oh my
and
gosh.
Eversource,
Yeah.
said that they were gonna eliminate that, it was a danger, and so we've never been able to put anything back on, like, since.
You can only do it on the light posts.
Yeah, those are town.
Those are okay, 'cause those are
The
town,
black
but
posts
no.
that are downtown are
Right.
town.
But the wooden utility posts are owned by the electric company, and my
Electric,
understanding
phones,
it
whoever,
is not legal to
Yeah.
post notices or
Wow.
to
Right.
put things on.
it's interesting. I think you go through all, there's a flag on
Oh,
every
yeah,
telephone
there
pole,
is.
right?
Yeah.
It has been for a long time.
There is a process that you can get a third-party license.
I mean, it's not
to put stuff on
relevant
the
to today's
poles, but-
discussion. Thank you.
Okay.
But to just also give you, a patriotic purposes covers, I think it's between $700 and $800 covers the flags that go to the cemeteries. And then the rest of that covers, any replacement flags that we have to purchase for, Kelly Park, the town offices, and downtown. And then also any bunting, that we use to decorate the buildings, it all comes out of that line, so.
Okay, if there are no other,
Seems pretty cheap for what it is.
if there are no other questions or motions to amend, I will move the final question. So we are now going to vote on funding for the patriotic section, which is number 4583, in the amended amount of $29,600. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand and saying aye.
Aye.
Wait, but
Right.
you didn't do the
Yeah, he said-
patriotic purposes.
Thank you.
It was downtown decorating committee and patriotic purposes for
But
1,200.
it says total patriotic. I'm doing the total line for all, so
For the
for.
four of them?
So for 4583,
Yeah.
the total of those four lines, it was 28,100. We amended line 120 to add 1,500.
Yep.
So that increases that from 28,1 to 29,6. So the motion is to approve the total amount for patriotic purposes, which is section 4583.
Did we talk about the last line? Is that what you're asking?
Yes, Christina.
Christina just talked about it. That was the
Yeah.
flags
I
and the.
thought, okay, I thought that was the line before.
Right, well, the only reason why I'm saying this is because I thought when you had done the first two lines with her, that you would do the second two lines and then that, so I wasn't sure which way you were going.
So we
Yeah.
talked about the fact that Lucille is not here and was not invited, and downtown decorating, and Christina told us what we did, and I didn't hear anyone say they wanted to amend
Got
that
it, got it.
3,400. And then we just talked about patriotic purposes being flags primarily,
Got it.
and I didn't hear any questions or motions to amend that.
I thought
So I
that
just
was
jumped to the
voluntary.
bottom line total of the four, which as amended now is 29,600. That's what we're voting on.
So,
Okay, I gotta make sure I'm clear on what we're doing. Go ahead, what's your question?
I abstained from the first one because I can't change what the Board of Selectmen voted on. But the other three I could vote for, but I'll have to abstain from the whole vote.
You are not precluded as a member of this committee from voting to change the select board's recommendation. You can,
No, really.
I can tell you that in past years, so last year it was Sean and the year before it was Les, they did not find it mandatory to abstain anytime the committee made a change. You are free to vote as you feel is best, is what I'm telling you.
And I don't think you'll get any pushback from anybody.
Not from you, anyway.
It's not going in my pocket.
So.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so is it clear we're gonna vote on the total amount for the patriotic section of all four lines in the amended amount of 29,600? So all in favor, aye.
Aye.
All opposed? and
No.
abstains. You're abstaining, right?
I guess for consistency, I have to abstain. I can't abstain.
You
from
don't
all
have to,
mine.
you are abstaining. What are you
Yes.
doing?
You know, that's the thing.
I gave you 3 choices, and you didn't raise your hand
I
at all,
know,
so I don't
but-
know what you're doing.
Because I don't know what I'm doing either, because, you know, I agree with everything, but, you know, it's not that I don't agree with the 1,500, I'm just torn between that, because there's gonna be other changes, I can see looking through the entire budget and whatever, there's going to be other places, and $1,500, she originally, I'm going by her words, we can make it work. And she was only asking that next year she was going to ask for more, and I get that. I do.
Okay.
So you're giving it to someone, say, hey, wait, let's just give that money. And when I'm thinking, we have to be deducting some money throughout this, so I'm a bit torn, so I don't wanna do it for that reason.
Okay,
You know.
so are you against or are you abstaining?
I'm gonna
So
say
if
no.
we're still.
You're
we're
saying
not-
no.
I'm gonna say I'm abstaining, sorry, I'll
Okay.
abstain. I'll abstain.
Okay, so we have 3 in
Discussion is
favor,
Yeah.
0 opposed, and 2 abstaining. So the motion
So,
passes.
yes, discussion was over.
So we can reopen this. I will make the comment now that we've taken a vote and closed that I completely agree with what you just said, Sue, is that I made the comment, Sean left, he might laugh if he were still here. At the end of the process last year, when we'd gone through all the lines and we had a final number, I took the opportunity to say that I was dismayed, that I thought that the overall increase in the budget was more than I really wanted to support. But that we handled everything line by line, and on a line by line basis, everything seemed reasonable and I voted for it. So I didn't know what to do. I was just taking the opportunity to vent because I was frustrated
Right.
that I voted for all these things, but in the end, I didn't like what I ended up with. And I think
Exactly.
that's what
That's how
I'm
I'm
hearing
going
Sue
to.
say, which
Exactly.
is, we talked at the beginning
Yeah.
about Charlie's intention to bring
Yes.
in a goal.
Oh, yeah.
And if that is supported
And I
by a
agree with you.
majority of
A
the
lot of us agree
committee,
with that.
we are then going to be taxed with finding a way to achieve
How
that
do you
goal,
gonna
which is gonna
jump?
be considerable. And what we've done tonight is what we typically do, is we said, oh, it all looks it all
Sure,
looks
let's
justifiable,
put 'em
it's
line
fine.
to line,
We've
but-
either approved it as requested, or in this one case, we've approved it as amended with a higher number. So we're not really making progress towards finding $15,000 worth of reductions.
Yeah.
But by this,
1,500.
1,500, yeah.
No.
no, Charlie, to
Charlie
get
said
from the
50.
7.8%
To a 5,
increase that's
to a
coming in here to
5%.
5,
Yeah,
I believe is $150,000.
yeah,
what he said.
yes.
That's
I just don't,
Yeah.
I mean, in theory, I love the idea. In practice, I just don't see us doing it. But we
No,
will
it's
talk
really-
about that next meeting.
Yeah.
I shouldn't have brought it back up. I
No, it's okay, I
apologize.
think, and you said something about this a few minutes ago, that if we raise this, we won't lose this fabulous person that we have, and you're gonna have the same conversation with our town employees. It's part of where we've been with the select board about our town employees. It's happening across the country, that if you don't fund this, you might lose this person, and it's gonna cost you more in the long run. That's number one. And number two, and this may not be my business sitting here, I have never been a fan of saying, well, we need to do something, how about 5%? We'll throw that number out.
Yeah.
I mean, why not 5.2%? Why not 4.9%?
It's just a goal.
So-
It's just a
No,
goal.
I know
It's
that,
not-
but I'm saying, we have to have, that, I found sitting on the select board, your department heads are amazing in this town. I never knew
Well,
about how they control costs. So if you just throw a number out, and it's I'm just the rep here, but, you know, if Charlie wants to do that, that's awesome, that's great. But you know what I'm saying? Let's pick a number, 5.3.
I hear what you're saying,
So-
and
that's,
I don't disagree with
Yeah.
anything you said.
That's very
The thing that I want to be careful about is, and if I could, I just want to say this before I give you your shot, is one of the reasons I said I want Charlie here, but I also want Rob here, because Rob has some history, and I don't have any other history. I remember going to town meeting and hearing the 12 or 13 member budget committee almost at warfare and all this stuff going on. So Rob can give us a little bit of that. So I certainly don't want to go back to that. We're saying, I don't think this is what Charlie's saying. It's certainly not something that I would support. I'm not willing to say we're aiming for 5%. We have to hit 5%. come hell or high water, we're gonna recommend a budget with 5%, and if we can't make it work, we'll just dump it on the select board.
Right.
I am not in favor of that.
I don't think that's what he's saying.
If we set a goal for 5% increase, and we do better than the 7.8% we're at now, I think that that's a win. I don't think that we're gonna be capable of actually getting there, but I think setting the goal, if the majority of the committee agrees with that, is helpful. So I wanna have that discussion.
Yeah.
But
Fair.
I'm not willing to lead a committee which says, our job is to put together a budget that makes sense. Oh, we can't make it make sense and it's a bottom line budget, so let's just pass a bottom line number that doesn't really add up and count on the select board to make it work.
And that's how-
That's not the way this town should
Yeah.
work, that's not the way I'm gonna work.
That's the way it's been working.
In the past, people have tried to do that.
Yeah.
If all 6 of you vote against me, I can get overruled, I'm just telling you that my position is I won't support that.
So the only time I've been on the board, 7 or 8 years, the only time any numbers have been changed is John Sellers for
Right.
250.
Yeah.
That's it. So the budget committee has never in 7 or 8 years suggested higher or lower. It was John Sellers. That's the only time. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's what we should be doing. I've worked in finance over 50 years. Budgets. My budget alone every month was 25 million for 4 companies. This is, this is easy. I think, I feel strongly that someone who works for us not only should be compensated, but appreciated. And that's what we're doing. I don't think she's gonna look at it and say, oh, good, then I can raise my bill. I've never met the woman, but I don't think she's like that. What she has produced since I've been here is phenomenal. That's all. You know me.
If I can just
Go
make
ahead.
one comment on
Actually,
it.
when you do, then I need to go back to Christina, she had something she wanted to say, I'm sorry.
Go
ahead.
I want to be really clear that Claire had let me know that the budget was, her request for the budget was going to go up. It was my oversight to not put it in there, and my rectifying that was to say, we'll spend less out of the 15,000 to make sure she's compensated the 10,000. So she at no point was saying she would walk away, and I just want to be clear because we are on camera. She's all in. She loves what she does for us. But that was my error, and that's how I was going to rectify it and make it work. So I appreciate the work and I think this is a very thoughtful budget committee. I mean, I think you are doing a great job, and I've been there when there were budget committees that weren't, so.
Yeah, we sure have.
Okay, before we go to the next section, Christina, what did I cut you off? What were you
No,
gonna
that's right. I
say?
was just gonna, there are 2 things I was just gonna say. This is a preliminary vote too.
Correct.
So
Yeah.
you can certainly keep this in a tickler for your thoughts towards the end. If you haven't accomplished your goals, so to speak, you could go back and amend this budget when you do deliberations to remove that increase that came up. This is just your preliminary vote. Not that I want you to do that, but you do. The second thing I was gonna say for Carol is that you've been given additional information that you didn't have at the select board level, so you can take that information and vote. You don't have to abstain because this information about Claire's contract wasn't shared with the select board level. So I just throw that out there, so, that's all.
Thank you, Les.
You
I
are
think you're
very
done,
welcome,
right?
thank you.
That was a good
Okay.
conversation right there.
So I guess I'm gonna continue on the list from where we are now. So Conservation Commission
And
is
I
next.
just want to remind you that
Yes,
he's had surgery. I know he's in a lot of pain. Can we?
I mean, I'm gonna try, that's what I'm trying to.
Because I've been watching him. I've had too many surgeries.
We can move certainly the CIP presentation or to another meeting or some of these items if we want to. So
Yeah.
Dawn can be here if you wanted to do that.
Yeah.
But conservation, I can go with that when you're ready.
I think that's pretty quick, so let's do that.
Okay.
Where are we?
Where is that?
That's section 4611, so it's the one right under the one we just did.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of why I was keeping on the list. We just keep flowing down. instead of jumping back up to the top. So it looks like it's, well, all right, before we start discussing, I'll make a motion to fund the Conservation Commission, section 4611, in the amount of $1,850. Walter seconds. Now we will discuss. Christine, you're gonna
Yep.
lead that?
Yes, so Joanne Bailey is the new assessing and land use manager. However, Joanne has only been here 3 weeks, so we don't have her presenting or the budget at this time. You'll need her, I'm sure you'll need her before next year, but next year she'll be doing the budgets. For conservation, and each of the boards, by the way, they vote on their own budgets as well. We just propose it for them. So the only change in the Conservation Commission budget is the conservation meetings, memberships, education. They have had some new members join which is great. And so they increased it by $100 to allow for additional trainings. The cost to go to even the New Hampshire Association of Commission trainings can be $100 a person, so, and then it's $250 for their dues. That fee hasn't changed for a number of years, but I anticipate that will be going up as well. So that's the only change. Everything else is level funded. And some things have not been billed out of this yet. But if you have any specific questions about a line, please let me know.
Carol, are you still a member of this
Yep,
commission?
I'm the chair, yep.
Okay. Did you want to say anything about this section?
No, I think Christina covered it. There's not, on the bottom line, on maintenance of properties, there's not much for us to do. We did put some extra signs out on the Bennett wetland last weekend, but we have a whole slew of those little round signs that we bought years ago. And we're gonna do a little work in the spring area, but we're gonna get some of that gravel from the road crew, and it's all volunteer work. And I think this, our manuals are coming out of supplies, or is that coming out of the meetings and memberships, education? That's coming out of materials and supplies, right there.
Materials and supply, no, meetings, memberships, education.
Okay, so we have a really nice, a guide to conservation commissions that the Association of Conservation Commissions put out, and it's a great book for new people, or for all of us, because it goes through the statutes, it goes through everything. So we bought a number of those, and we give each new person one of those.
Okay.
Did we get one?
We've just
On the Conservation Commission.
We've just created a welcome binder. So
Yeah.
for every land use board except for CIP, we've created what we call welcome binders. They're not all finalized yet, but what we do is create a welcome binder of materials for a new member that they're gonna need to help support them when they do that position. And Conservation Commission has a book that comes from the New Hampshire Association of Conservation Commissions. It's currently $40 a book.
Yeah.
Which we will purchase for the new member, and then we add it to the materials that we put out, which is there's the statutes in there. There's all kinds of information. Be glad to share it with anybody if they really want to learn about it. But that comes out of the costs for some of that would probably come out of materials and supplies, but the book might be education.
Okay.
But they've just gotten two new members on the Conservation Commission, so.
And we might be getting another one. Chip came along to the Bennett wetland, he might be interested. Sorry, it's a sidebar.
That's all right. So
we're good?
questions,
No, I'm fine.
comments, any desire to propose a change?
No.
I'm seeing head shake no, so we'll go ahead and vote on this. So we're gonna vote now on the total budget section for the Conservation Commission, which is section 4611. And we're gonna vote to approve $1,850. That's the motion. Hasn't been amended, as requested. Is that clear?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And abstains?
Yes.
401, passes. That abstention, I understand.
Well, you don't understand anything I do.
All right, so Historic District Commission, let's do this, we should get this, shouldn't take too long, I don't think. Again, you're gonna take us through that, Christina?
Yep,
Okay.
but I'll let you move it. Motion.
Oh, yeah, so I will, thank you, prod for Paul. I will make a motion that we will consider the budget for the Historic District Commission, which is section 4612, in the recommended amount of $1,800. Janet seconds.
So, the only increase in this budget is approximately, whoops, I just lost my spot.
750, you went from 500 to 1250 on supplies.
So, this has been on the list to be done for at least 2 years. They finally picked out a historic sign, because, for the National Register of Historic Places. And this will pay for the historic sign for the Old Town Hall and the library. Those two buildings are the only town-owned buildings that are on the National Register, and they've been working on this for a couple of years to get the sign picked, approved by the select board, so they can get it put onto the buildings.
So I understand the historical building, the Historical Society building, right? You're talking about,
No,
Which-
the
where are you
Old
talking?
Town Hall here,
oh, this one.
Where we
it's old.
voted.
Okay,
yeah, it's on the National Historic Register.
okay, yep.
And then the library is the National Historic Register.
Even with the add-ons?
Now, why with the library?
Yeah, even with the library is already on the registry. So they're both town-owned buildings on the registry, and they wanted to put signs on both of the town-owned buildings that match. They didn't wanna buy one here and then go to buy one for the library 2 years later, and now you can't get the same similar sign. So that's what they're proposing to do. 2 of the same signs that will say they're on the registry. The words are National Historic Registry and the year that they were incorporated, so.
I'm fine
You're
with
wondering why it's not in the library budget? No?
Well, yeah, no, that's, I'm kind of thinking.
We're on the same page tonight, you and I.
I know, yeah, I'm kind of thinking, why isn't, this would be on this budget for what? Why would this be on this
The
budget?
Historic District Commission?
Just because,
The historic district actually, there's more than one property in the historic district regulations. The 2 town-owned are the Old Town Hall and the library.
Mhm.
And then the whole historic district downtown is also on the registry. Now, they've redone their boundary signs. We have one more to get installed. They're working on trying to do historical signage. And their thoughts were, if they could get the same, you can't tell the libraries to budget it and buy the same exact sign. But if they get the signs and buy it, their thoughts were we could get it done, and get these signs up on these buildings to show that they're on the National Register.
when was the library put on the National Register?
That's upstairs in my office.
I mean, it's like before the additions and all that, before the work was done on the library?
So any work that they did to the library had to also be added to the registry, is my understanding. So the whole building is on the historic register, but mainly it's the older section.
It's the older
Yeah.
section, okay.
And I can pull the registry up and let you know when it was put on it. But it would be
Well, no, the only reason why I'm asking was that is before or after the addition, so I understand the small part of the building, the old, because I don't actually remember what the old part looks like. I was here for it, but I just don't remember.
You know where the side door is?
Yeah,
It's that triangle looking section where the side front door is, and then downstairs.
and then the downstairs.
Those
Okay.
two, that pretty much is your old library.
Wow,
Yeah.
and that was put on the National Register, and then it's all added, even though it's new to the
So
building.
the most, if I go back and I can double check the registry, most of the stuff that's probably added to it is probably not completely incorporated into the registry. But they do have to document when they make those changes, like if we made a ton of changes to the historic town hall, we would have to go amend our registry
Gotcha.
too, so.
Yeah.
Walter, what's your,
If we voted to not recommend these signs, What disadvantages would that be to the town?
Just that the buildings wouldn't be marked as a historic register. I believe at one point, that the old town hall had to be marked as a register. I couldn't tell you for sure on the library. So I can go back and check that and come back to you with a better answer for that from the historic district. I believe there was a requirement that we had to mark that building at one point. But the library, I don't know if there's a requirement for that.
So maybe we could just table this?
Yeah,
Could
you
we
could
table
table
this
this.
before?
We could make a motion.
To table.
Right now, we're still in discussion, so I'd like to ask my question, which is, so current spending year to date for this Historic District Commission is $61. Is there a bunch of things that just haven't posted yet, or are they basically spent no money this year so far? Do you know?
Memberships, trainings, and I don't understand what the dollar for postage is. I think that's wrong. There should be more than that in postage. They had a case go before them. So I'll double check that as well. So the $100 in advertising is for cases that come before them. So if they have a certificate of approval, so we can't zero that out unfortunately, but it is offset. It's like planning and zoning. The people pay an application fee and they pay for their advertising, they pay for their butters notices, and that comes out of advertising, and then it offsets that line. But we usually get maybe one case a year right now in the historic district, that they have to have a certificate of approval on. The supplies, they have spent money out of that. I'll double check where that's booked.
That's a lot of supplies.
Yeah, zero, I know. So I'll double check where that's been booked to, and I'll update that as well. That it might be a coding error.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
So the whole thing, I'll double check on for you and then bring it back to you at another meeting.
I gotcha. So what I want to say at this point is, it sounds like we need updates on the actual spend,
Yeah.
and we want to think some more about signs. So I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I think I heard you make a motion to table.
Table this, yes.
Does anyone want to second
I'll
that?
second.
So, do we want to table this and take it up at a future time? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's unanimous. So we will move on. We are done with Historic District for tonight. We will have to, at some point, come back to them.
Yep.
How are we doing on time?
8:15.
All right. Walter, if you need to call Uncle, let us know and we will, but
No.
otherwise I'm gonna keep pushing forward a
I'm
little
here
bit.
for business.
Okay. So, do we wanna go back and handle property planning, zoning, tax map, land use, animal welfare, which is a lot of Christina's stuff, or do we want to go on to outside agencies? I think I prefer to go and do the planning board stuff.
Yeah, I'd rather have the other two members here.
Okay, so let's do, we're not gonna do capital improvement right now, we're gonna do property reappraisal.
What page is that?
4152.
Oh, 41.
So, according to mine, that is page 4, property reappraisal. And we do have our subject matter expert here, so let me make a motion, and then we'll go into discussion. I make a motion to consider budgeting for the property appraisal section of the budget, which is section 4152, in the amount of $148,791. Walter seconds that. We will now discuss.
If we just touch base on the increases, line 120, we talked about previously that it wasn't budgeted for a full year last year.
Right, this is somebody we hired in this budget year, so we didn't hire them until after town meeting, April at the very earliest.
So you're correct, so we budgeted them for not a full year, and we budgeted them from April 1st on, so there's an increase there.
Okay.
And then the rest of the budget, the increases under FICA, Medicare, and all of that is related to the payroll line. There's a new assessing and land use manager, and that person came in at a slightly lower rate, so that was adjusted.
Okay.
And then That's it, the overall increase is 3% on the property appraisal lines. Everything else is level funded. I can answer specific questions about what's in a line if you have questions about those.
No, so you're saying that the cost to operate the budget is level, the cost to operate the department is level funded. What has changed is salaries. So the new manager is a new person with a little less experience there. They went down a small amount, but the admin is now 12 months instead of 9, and they went up. So it's a small net increase.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, just to touch base on contract services, we haven't paid for all of the work to be done. There are more payments coming out of that line. I anticipate that will be closer to the 30,000 before the end of the year. There are things that they have done that they haven't billed us for yet. And so that contract services covers the assessing work that they go out and do that's not related to the reval. So the yearly pickups, the abatements, the equalization ratio, the work, and they're also contracted to do some training because I can't train the assessing land use manager all by myself. So we contracted with them to come in to help train both of the assessing department as well. And then what else comes out of that line? Let me just look at my notes.
So you're not in this budget anymore?
No, well, part of the year, yes.
As
But I
of-
was paid out of part of the year up until September 1st. So as of September 1st, I'm now paid out of the executive budget. So,
Under the what?
the executive budget.
Oh, okay.
Let me go back, 4152. So contract services is general assessing, the utility appraiser, so anything to do with, electricity, they do the phones, they do the cell tower. Contracted consulting services, we were contracted to do manual work, out of there, but we've had to shift that person to do other work, and that, when the department had nobody in it. So we're shifting her back to do manual work, so we'll have some more money coming out of that line for the manual work. And then, that pretty much covers it in the contract services.
Any other questions? Any desire to
No.
amend?
No, this is.
You know, I know we're all gonna
reasonable.
have
Yeah, this is
questions. You know, it's pretty hard to sit here.
And we always have the option, we actually have a meeting late in the process where it's basically to go back and reconsider anything we want. So none of these are in ink or in stone. We
Right.
always have the option to go back. Okay, so if there's no further questions and no desire to amend, I'm gonna move the question as stated, which is, so now we're gonna vote on the budget proposal for this section in total. So we're gonna vote on funding for the property reappraisal portion of town budget, which is section 4152, in the amount of $148,791. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's 5. I don't need to call anything else. 500.
4191 is next, which would be the planning board.
Before we do that, I do want to take the opportunity to kind of say something to the committee and to you. So I look at this and I say, gee, if we're looking for places to cut, you look at the historical actual spend and it's always been less. So you could say, why are we funding this at 148? You would expect they're really going to spend 120 or something. We could cut 25 out of this. I think the thing that gets me going is, we talk about the fact that we have department heads that we trust, that we think do a good job. So if we fund them at the 148 and they spend the 120, the other 25 go into I forget what to call it. I call it the surplus fund, but you know what I'm trying to say, the unexpended
reserve,
balance fund or
yeah.
whatever it's called. And then that becomes available to the select board to use against next year's budget and reduce the tax amount. So unless you don't trust the select board to apply it to taxes, because they can do other things with it if they want to, they can go out and buy a pet project that they couldn't get funded otherwise. I mean, that's how we got recycling, because we kept telling I'll say we as a town, kept telling the voters, oh, it's not gonna cost you anything, it's coming out unexpended and capital.
Yeah.
But then there's not
Under a warrant article.
under a warrant article,
Right,
correct.
they can't
Totally
just
different,
take
yeah.
that money without.
They cannot take that money, but they can apply it to other things. Correct. I'm not
And that was
suggesting that they're doing
calculated.
anything illegal,
Oh,
that is
no,
not
no.
my point.
Remember,
So-
Paul, that was calculated incorrectly by Dawn.
Yeah.
He didn't put the employees in it. So that's very wrong, that budget.
So I guess the reason I want to point that out is that my understanding, and I don't have as much time as most of the rest of you, maybe I only outrank Carol as far as experience goes, is we historically, from my point of view, have tended to say, gee, the department might spend this, we budget them for the full amount, and when they spend less, the surplus gets turned over. If you cut that, you're not getting ongoing savings, because you haven't changed what the departments are doing, you haven't changed what the town government is doing. You've just wrung some surplus out of it. It's a one-time efficiency improvement. That's why I'm struggling to think about how we're really gonna make meaningful cuts to this budget. Please, yes.
So I just have two comments based on what you said. So one is, you have to be careful about your historical too on some of these budgets, because they didn't have staff, so they underspent the budget because there was no staff there. So now that they have a full staff, you have to be careful about how much you're looking at and cutting, one. And two, I think, and I'm not saying that our department heads would ever do that, but they do try to hold the line on their budgets as much as possible. And whatever money that they turn back, if that is going to be held against them in the future because they are turning money back and holding the line, then I could see, not saying that our department heads would do that, but I could see there potentially being where they're gonna spend every cent and I don't really think our department heads would do that, but I think.
I don't think so either, but I have the same concern. I
Right.
mean, the corporate parity is you get to the end of the year and you have to spend money because it's use it or lose it. And I agree with you. I don't think that we currently run the town, or the people in charge of running the town don't think that way. We do not want to train them to start thinking that way.
And the one thing I will add is, I'm not saying that this budget is perfect and there's no place that there can be cuts. Because obviously we all know that that's not true. There's always some place that you can find something to cut. But I'm just saying, you just want to watch what you use for historical when you make those decisions on some of these budgets, so.
Walter, go ahead.
If there's a possibility of some place to cut, certainly there are a few people more knowledgeable of where they would be. And I'm gonna tell you, there are a lot of people in this town who are suffering the decision of eat meat.
Yeah.
I'm concerned about it.
Yeah.
If there's a recommendation, if you know of something, don't hold it back.
Oh, no,
If you know of something, I'd like to hear it.
I
Because
would certainly let you know, Walter.
Yeah. You know, but can I just say something too? But you know what, when I first was gonna be on this, like what was running for the budget committee, one of the biggest questions posed, was to me, I should say, was there's a difference. What is your opinion of difference between want and need? There's a whole difference in doing a budget. When I look at a budget, it's what do you really need it? When you have so many people asking or so many things, now they want increases, now they want, you gotta keep people here because you gotta, pay them more money because, you don't want them to leave and everything. There's a whole bunch of things that are needed and there's other things that are wanted. So I will look at it very philosophical, that this is not necessarily, when you're looking at each individual, that it's needed versus wanted. That's great that you want it, but is it really needed?
Right.
Okay, and that's what you have to look at. The people, the public, like you said, are right now suffering. And the first thing that they're gonna look at are our taxes gonna go up. What's gonna, our taxes are gonna go up. Well, they're gonna go up if you give everything that there's asked for in this budget. And, not just this budget, any budget in the years past. So you have to be very careful where you do those decisions. So you can cut, there are certain things, again,
Yep.
want versus need.
That's why you need to go line by line.
It's true, you can look at it line by line, but when you go back and you look at the overall budget, if you've gone line by line and you said, yeah, you're gonna have it, this is what I agree. It's not gonna necessarily be where you wanna be unless you can go back and edit everything that you've just done. That's how I look at things. So you really have to, weigh out all this stuff. I know what you're saying about historical, but it's got,
right.
when you're doing a budget, it's strictly, how I look at things is strictly, how can we make this budget meet? And if we can't, when can we do the cuts? Because
Right.
it's need versus, want versus need.
Well,
So.
and my comment wasn't to say that you couldn't cut it, it just is to look at the historical and make sure that
Yeah.
the places where the budget wasn't spent wasn't because they were short-staffed and now they're fully staffed.
Oh, you have to do your work,
Right,
yeah.
so
you
those
have to
things,
do
so
it.
I don't want you to think I said, I was saying that you can't use the historical at all. You can, but.
No, but getting back to even what you said before that is when I look at some of the things that, like you said about, if you don't spend that budget, I had made a comment last year on something like that, and I have a hard time with, if you don't spend it, that's great, I mean, that's good.
Right.
I would love it that you could keep that money for next year, so you don't need to ask. You've got this to cover next things that will come up, but you can't do that, because the process isn't, you're not allowed to do that, right?
The state will
The
not
state
allow us
has
to do that.
Exactly, won't allow you to do that.
You can, if you have a contract or agreement in place.
To encumber.
To encumber those funds.
Okay.
And that was a select board decision which we've scheduled for December 15th for anything that we can encumber from this budget to move forward.
Right.
But so you can do that only if you have some type of contract or agreement in place that will cover that. You can't just say, oh, next year I want to spend 500 out of this budget that I didn't spend. You can't just do that. You have to have an actual contract to do something with that 500 next year and use it.
So unless they have a contract, anything that's appropriated to, one of the departments, let's say, and they don't spend it all, automatically goes back to the select board for them to make that decision. If it's not contract.
Goes back to the
The general fund, yeah.
And that's where they can use it to offset the taxes.
Right, gotcha.
For the following year.
Yeah, just, the public is good to understand that. Yes, well, yeah.
So
Well-
what is,
Go ahead.
thank you. What is December 15th?
December 15th is the select board meeting, the last one of the year, and they have to vote on encumbrances, if there are any encumbrances, before the end of the year. They're not gonna meet again after December 15th, so we've scheduled any encumbrances to go before the select board, if there are any. One of them we talked about, we actually already made the adjustment on the advertising line for next year's budget, and contracted to pay for the town reports out of this year's budget, and we're gonna go to the board and ask them to encumber that, but we reduced the advertising, you'll see that when we get to it. And that's the one I know about right now, and I think Les Diamond mentioned the ones they're gonna encumber for the tennis courts out of their capital line, master plan lines. But on
So it's nothing that the budget has to go through?
It's
No,
nothing
you'll
that
see-
our committee will do.
No, you'll see but obviously you'll see what was spent change, because encumbrances would be booked as an expense and taken out of here. But some of it is used to offset changes in the budget already for next year, or could be used to offset changes in the budget for next year, depending on what people comment. So.
Okay.
And I had the same questions running for select board, but I think since we're on camera, we have to be, there are a number of items here that are completely out of our control. The increase of 12% in insurance.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a big number.
Yep.
It's a big number. So if people want to say you have to, I don't want my taxes to go up. eventually you have to say, what is it that you don't want anymore? This is me, this is my personal opinion. Somewhere along the line, if you say, what was that number? I mean, that was a big number, 100 and something thousand, the insurance went up?
Oh, I don't know. It's,
Well, whatever it was, it
Yeah.
doesn't matter.
it's,
But you
it's,
gotta
it's,
say-
in a, it's in a different section. We haven't gotten there yet, but we will.
And I hear that because people said that to me. It's easy to say, you can't let my taxes go up, but boy, that's an easy thing to say to any of us, doesn't matter whether
No.
it's select board or the budget committee.
That's why I think since it's.
Eventually, you're gonna
Right.
say,
Right.
right, eventually.
And workers' comp, all those things go up every.
Everything, so somewhere along the line, you say, what is it that we aren't going to do?
And it seems to me that the
That's
selectmen,
me.
when our taxes were gonna be higher, and I was new on the budget committee. One of the selectmen, I won't mention names, would contact the school. And somehow or another, you probably know how that's figured in. And so I've been watching the school board meetings. Oh, they're going up. I'm like, and I had already done a lot of preliminary research, and I thought, they're going up. And
Well,
So we
I'm
can,
very nervous about us.
Your point is that the total tax bill is made up of 4 sections. And
Yes.
the town budget is only one of those
Yep.
4 sections.
Right.
So we could stand on our head amazing things, and it still doesn't guarantee anything, because the other 3 sections can all go up, that we have nothing
And
to control.
You
We,
should really
as a
watch the
committee.
school
We don't, but
committee.
you gotta do the best you can with what
I
you
can,
have.
Yes,
I don't
so-
have the
yes,
exact
absolutely.
numbers with me, I did not bring them to this meeting, I can certainly, you're gonna get your bills before your next meeting. But the tax rate did go up, it went up a total of 78 cents to $20.99. Only 57 cents of it was the town, and that is, they did apply $250,000 from the unexpended fund balance to offset that and get it down to 57 cents, so. But it was a 78 cents total, it was $20.99. The town rate, it did go up 57 cents, so.
So on
People can
that
live with it.
question, I made a call last night to someone to let them know they had bought property in Bristol. And I said, don't get upset if you don't get a tax bill, because it hasn't been changed over to your name. It's still the same owner. Well, that can't be. I bought a year ago. I said, this is the way it is. So if you don't get a tax bill, he said, well, it's paid through my mortgage.
Yeah.
So what happens when John Doe sends his mortgage payment in, but we don't have him listed on the CAI tab?
Well, the CA, you can't go by the mapping program if you're going by that for ownership. That is only updated quarterly, if that right now. The program to update that isn't quite working for ownerships, and we're trying to get that fixed. You have to go by Avatar. Avatar program is also.
I don't think I can get in, can I?
Yep, you
I can?
do the website, if you go to the assessing page on the website, there's 2 different things. There's one that's property cards by Avatar,
Mhm.
and that provides you access to, it links you to the Avatar website, you can look up assessments, you can look up ownership, that is updated a little more frequently than the mapping is.
And it doesn't matter, because it would just stay in their escrow account anyway.
Well, yeah, but people get upset.
I actually just want to shut this down, because I
Yeah.
want to
Yeah,
get the moving.
we're going
meeting
off
moving.
the
Oh.
Sorry.
That's okay, that's okay, we veer quite easily, and I can herd this group of cats.
Good conversation.
So now we'll go to planning board, which is on page 6 at the top. So I'm making a motion to consider funding for the planning board, which is section 4191, in the amount of $9,300. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Sue will second that. So now we will discussion, planning board.
So the 2 increases, and then I can answer some of the other lines, are on advertising and printing. We consistently looked like we've either been exact or over on advertising and printing. That is offset in the revenues, so normally we get, we charge the applicant, gets offset in the revenues, but we adjusted the budget to reflect the change in the increase there. And it was what, $200?
Right. You went up from 600, 800 on advertising, and you went up from 800 to 1,000 on postage.
Yep, so 3 of the last 4 years, we've exceeded the budget on advertising. Same thing with the postage. Cost of postage has increased. We have to send all our notifications by certified mail. We are recouping these costs on the other side, but without adjusting that and us continually going over on those lines, it can sometimes affect that bottom line. So we thought it would be best to adjust that, and then we would adjust the revenues on the other side to reflect that.
Okay.
And specifically, this is as of the end of October 31st. Planning board has had cases at every meeting. These costs are going to most likely change. How the spending is going to change. We're going to be much closer to the 8902. We may not reach the 8902, but we will be much closer.
Well, I'll mention to the other committee members, I went to my first planning board meeting last month, and they seem like they got their stuff together, so I don't really have any desire to change this, personally.
Just to touch base on the master plan, so I know that it looks like we haven't spent that money, but we have. We're just finalizing the community survey. If you hadn't participated, it is still open. Please go on and participate because it will be closing by the end of the week. The community survey is used to update the master plan, which has to be updated. The sections have to be updated, I believe, every 7 years. We're behind the 8 ball on that. This year we just adopted the vision chapter. It was written for us by Lakes Region Planning. We amended it, we again adopted through public hearings, and now we're working on the land use chapter. And it's proposed to next year to get the economic development chapter. That will be a new chapter added into the master plan, but the proposal is to get that in and try to keep us on a regular schedule. So. If there are any funds that are left over from this year, we would certainly try to encumber those to go towards the work that's being done next year. So.
Okay. I'm not hearing any questions or intents to amend, so I am going to move the final question. So we're going to vote on funding for the total funding for the planning board, which is section 4191, in the amount of $9,300. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's 5, that's all. 500. Passes. That was easy. Zoning board, which is the next section down. So I'm making a motion to consider to recommend funding the zoning board, which is section 4192, in the amount of $1,800. Carly, you want to get a second in here, or you want somebody else to do it? Sue got it. Not fast enough. Discussion.
The same thing with the zoning board, advertising, printing, postage. We're slightly adjusted just because they've been under budgeted for the last couple of years. Those again are also offset in revenues, so what we've adjusted here, we will adjust on the revenue side as well. So, they again have been extremely busy. We've had the last meeting we had two attorneys, the town's attorney, and 4 cases with a standing room only.
Wow.
So, at their last zoning board meeting, so they've been extremely busy,
So we've got another committee made up of volunteers, and they need $1,800 to do their work next year. This doesn't seem like worth a whole lot of discussion.
No.
I mean, I don't think we're gonna change this. I'm seeing head shakes in that general agreement, so we will move the question. So we're gonna vote on zoning board. So this is total funding for this section of the budget, which is section 4192. And we will be funding the zoning board in the recommended amount of $1,800. All in favor? Aye. And I got 5 yeses, so it passes. And now we will do tax map, which is the next section. So I make a motion to fund the tax map portion of the town budget, which is section 4193, in the amount of $8,550. Janet seconds. And now we will
Why is it always
discuss.
the same?
So.
Because it's kind of like a licensing fee, isn't it? Or
Is it?
Yeah, their contracts, I can give you, we pay for the annual planning map revisions, and building maintenance out of that line. The annual maintenance contract, which is any other work, like if there's subdivisions, they have to update. If there's new construction, they have to update and add the building. We also pay for the web GIS hosting, which is the mapping program. And we pay for an annual access GIS editor, which allows us behind the scenes to set up and maintain. For instance, highway department has the ability to set up and maintain where their culverts are. There's certain things that won't be released to the public in this platform, but it allows them to do their setup behind the scenes. And also water and sewer has the same ability to do that, and that's what we also pay for, the ability to be able to edit behind the scenes, so. And there has been actually very little change in their costs for the work that we're doing. We are a little bit over spending this year, and part of that is when the quarters hit. So they bill every so many months, and so if we delay billing it all, we may have paid it in January, that might have offset the billing just a little bit. And we also we had to fix a site that cost us, I think, it was $250 or $300 to fix a problem on the map, which was very, it does cost us an extra amount if we have to correct certain areas on the map. So we try to do a little bit at a time when we find an area that, like a condo association, may not be totally updated, right, or boat slips may not be totally updated. We pick a project at a time and try to put that in instead of hitting it all at once, so.
Okay. Any other comments, questions, concerns?
Pretty much straight.
Okay, I don't see any motion, I don't hear any motions to amend, so we will vote. We're gonna vote on funding the tax map portion of the town budget, which is section 4193, in the amount of $8,550. All in favor? Aye.
Yep.
Got 5. So nobody is against or abstaining, and that passes. And land use health. That's
That's 4411.
40, okay, that's a jump through the document. Thank you.
What number did you say?
She said 4411, which is 18. Let me get that right, hold on. No, that's not- Land use health, okay, so I make a motion to consider funding for the land use health office, it's titled a little different here. Section of the town budget, which is 4411, in the amount of $121,834. Second, please.
Oh, second.
So, that's okay.
Get the numbers.
So, this budget has changed 3 times since we brought it to you. Since the first time you probably saw this document. And part of it was we've had a very hard time filling the land use position, the officer position. It was budgeted at 29 hours last year, so we tried to put it at 32. We got a really good candidate that we brought before the select board, who has asked the select board to consider he's leaving a full-time job and going to a part-time job here. And he asked the select board to consider what options are there for me. And the select board agreed, reviewing the options, not to make it a full-time position, but to make it 35 hours, which requires retirement. So that's why you see the jump on the retirement line. is because of this position.
So which line
This
item
is line
he?
120?
Yep, line 120
120?
will be
Okay.
35 hours now. There's in last year it was 29 hours, so there's an increase in hours. There's not an increase in pay, it's the same pay.
You mean hourly, it's the same pay?
It's hourly, the same pay,
Okay.
yes, sorry, not total.
Right, okay.
But 35 hours gives him full-time status.
No,
No.
he's part-time,
Part-time
but
still.
by federal law, you have to offer them retirement.
Oh,
So that's why if you look at the retirement line under 230,
Mhm.
it shows like 104% increase because we have to offer this position full-time at 35 hours. And the select board did vote to approve that, so a conditional offer has been made, and that the person has accepted the position, and we're working on getting them in because that position's been empty since July. So there's obviously going to be some savings in that line this year, because we weren't able to fill it. Pretty much there were two of us that were doing 5 jobs at one point in that department, and now this will be the last position to fill that department, so.
What about the health officer? Was that Peter?
Yeah, so I was the health officer, I still am until July.
Oh.
This position will be, so the title will change, it'll be land use and health officer, it will no longer be a deputy here. Because we shifted this out of the manager's role because the manager's office had too much on their plate. And so this position is the land use health officer and ADA compliance officer, which we won't put that all
What's
on
the
that
number?
line, so.
What is the number? 121?
120.
Oh, we're still on 120?
Yeah, that's the health
Okay.
officer is,
This
so.
was Peter's, that was what.
This was
Yes.
Peter's,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
And Peter retired in July, so.
So then, and so you and
It was
this new person are in line 120?
No, line
No.
line 120 was Peter until
Okay.
July. So you're gonna see that there's nothing being spent, it looks like hardly anything spent.
Right, the actual's not going up because
Right.
there's no one to collect a salary and do the work.
The person should be joining us before December, and you'll see more money expended, but we won't expend that whole line this year, because the position's been open.
But what's the difference between the land use administrator and the deputy health officer? What's the difference? Their rate of pay is close.
So the land use health, the health officer is a 35-hour position a
Okay.
week. The land use administrative assistant is what that should be.
Okay,
That is also was just built in September, I believe. Sound right, Carol?
Yeah.
We just filled that position in September. That position is the administrative assistant to all of the land use boards. They cover planning board, zoning board, historic district, conservation commission, and capital improvements committee. They do all of the agendas, they do all of the paperwork and support for the meetings, they collect all the applications, review all the applications, and then they set the schedule for the coming year. And then any follow-up that's needed, notices of decisions, et cetera, that person's doing all of that.
And nighttime.
Well, and here for meetings at nighttime.
That's a big,
They're like the
that's a,
secretary at the meeting.
yeah.
So that person is a full-time position,
it's a full-time, 40 hours, yeah.
40 hours. Yeah. And it is a new employee, but let's just look. It did go slightly because we offered it at a different rate, and then it's at the same rate as the last year's, but we adjusted it just slightly.
Does he have a name?
It's Michelle.
Oh, it's Michelle.
Yeah, Michelle McCaleb is the land use administrative assistant, and then the new person, I can't say yet because the board has to sign the
Oh,
PAF Thursday.
Okay, I was trying to do my,
Oh, no, and then, so let me just go down further, because you'll also see the land use planner is not a position, that was what we used to have.
Yeah, you've eliminated that.
And we realized that the position was more of an administrative assistant, it really wasn't a planner, and Bristol doesn't need a planner right now.
Mhm.
So that's why those changes were made. Then you get to 191, That's our we have to have a title. This title is Land Use Associate. This replaces Jan LaFerrier. Jan LaFerrier was the minute taker for all the boards. And she retired in December, but we had to hold off hiring anybody until July. We finally hired somebody.
Oh.
So this person does all of the minutes for the 5 boards. So.
And how many hours? Is this full part?
This is 20 hours. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
So this
I
is,
think I'm starting to
so
see.
Yeah.
have
It's been
you,
a long night so far, yeah.
yeah, have you hired this person
Yes.
for 191?
Yep, it's Janet Cody. Janet Cody.
Oh, Janet Cody.
Yep, she's the minute taker, that's the land use associate. She does the 5 boards, and she doesn't attend all the meetings. She does it from recording, but she does, so at most, she's doing about 7 meetings a month. Which takes some time. The other thing that she's doing along with the position is we still have a lot of stuff that hasn't completely been converted out of boxes in digital format. We moved here we moved here in October of 2019. The building shut down in March of 2020. We condensed from 30 boxes down to 8. So we have 8 boxes left. So she's doing some of those projects as well to help clean things up. Plus we have a subdivision file that if you try to find anything in, good luck. So she's doing a project to turn it into there's a digital Excel sheet that you'll be able to search for any subdivision type that you needed to and be able to find it much more easier than trying to go look through every file. So. But it's 20 hours a week, no more than Jan was budgeted for 20 hours a week when she was here, so it's the same budget when Jan was here. The main increase on this budget again is the retirement and the 35 hours for the land use officer.
So,
I know I'm gonna abstain,
okay,
because there's too much information here for me to
okay,
make any intelligent decision.
okay. Line 820, the last one. What exactly is that?
So, we have junkie yards, I'll call them.
Yeah, okay.
So this, we spent some of it, but we're in the process right now of potentially going to court over a property. And that 1,000 obviously isn't going to pay much towards cleanup, but we had to start with a number. We just weren't sure how much it was gonna cost. We've got to go through quite an extensive process of serving, and if there's any different mortgage holders out of state, you have to serve the Secretary of State's office. If there's other mortgage holders, you have to serve them. So it can be an extensive process, but we we do have one at this point. We are going to be in court very soon with, so.
And that's something that people are much more concerned about than they were 30 years ago.
Well, I will tell you, we started in the
And the
beginning.
state, having worked with the state, I know exactly the conversation that comes to the state and they say,
Yeah.
give it to the town. Statutorily, it's a town responsibility.
And because we hadn't,
Yeah.
we hadn't been consistent in the past, we hadn't gotten
Yeah.
properties to clean up. We've gotten quite a few to clean up because we started with 22 properties and I'm just gonna say what we started the year with 22 and we're down to about 10. The others have come into compliance and cleaned up. We have some new ones we've added. And we've had one that came into compliance who's now out of compliance again, so it's a vicious circle, but we didn't know what to budget here, because we don't know how much it's gonna cost us to clean up a property, but it's gonna be more than
It could be,
$1,000.
depending on what's left and what they,
Yeah,
could be
So,
a nice price.
when you're cleaning up property, do they owe back taxes?
they could,
You don't check into that,
Yeah.
you just deal with,
no, I check into everything, we check into everything, so the reason we have to do that is because if they owe back taxes on a property and it's a cleanup property, you can't take that property for back taxes until you do the cleanup, or you will never recoup the costs on the cleanup.
Wow.
Because if you do the cleanup, lien the property for the cleanup costs. Now that comes into your back taxes total, and you can now take the property if that's where you're at,
That was gonna be my,
and collect
Yeah.
the money for both the cleanup and the back taxes. If you don't do that first and you take the property, then you can't claim
right, you
that
own the
amount of
property.
money.
Right.
You own the cleanup, you pay for the cleanup, you're out that money. You can only collect back taxes on those properties.
And then the town is liable for the unknowns of the cleanup.
But you, I think you just answered the question that I hadn't asked yet, which is, this is another one of those pass-through things. So if we're spending money on cleanup, there should be a corresponding revenue number when we get them to pay. I mean,
Right.
no guarantee they're gonna make good, but we're gonna file a lien and try to get paid.
So yes, so if you spend money on cleanup, there should be, they should pay, or you take the property and you sell the property and get that money back. It may not come back that same year.
Right.
It may take a couple of years for that money to come back too, because even if they don't have back taxes and you say you pay $5,000 to clean somebody's property up and you lien it, that cleanup cost becomes a lien, and it does become a tax lien. So if they don't pay that $5,000 in 3 years, then they're up for deeding at that point. So it could take some time to recoup those costs, but that's the ultimate goal, is to make sure that the town isn't spending this amount of money to clean up and not being able to recoup those costs, so.
So that was one of my questions, because I thought Bob was gonna be here tonight. And you probably can't answer it because you haven't done the job that long. But in the real world, you know when someone is 90 days overdue and it's sitting in accounts receivable. Is there a report, like how much back taxes are owed to the town?
Raymond can run that, but one thing that we don't do is talk about when we're getting ready to deed a property in public. It's a non-public conversation.
Right, I've seen those, yeah.
So Raymond can run a report that tells you the outstanding debt of taxes. And usually she comes into
Doesn't the
report.
selectman look at them once a month?
Yeah, well, not
I
the full outstanding debt of taxes. They do look more at the properties that have been about ready to be deeded. And there's at least 12 to 13 properties on that list. Last time we talked about it, I think, Greg Carroll.
Didn't they used to have it in the
And it's a
book?
long,
Didn't they used to have it in the town book? They used to have it, who owe taxes or how many,
They don't do that.
they don't do that anymore?
Yeah, they used to do it in my town too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they used to do that here.
Yeah.
I don't know if they were advised legally not to do that anymore, but I know they stopped doing that. They don't do that anymore.
And they would say how many years, you had 3 years lien, you had 3, whatever it was
Yeah.
listed.
I wouldn't care who owes the taxes at this level. I would care if there's $100,000 sitting out there. And that takes someone in finance, I would think, to look at that.
well,
I mean,
that's kind of simplified.
I can
That's-
say that there's probably around, Bristol is a smaller percentage, but there could be for that smaller percentage around a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, because we are collecting 11 million in taxes roughly. And that's for 4 different categories. We collect it and distribute it. So there is Bristol has had a better percentage for collection of taxes than other towns have. They usually run somewhere around, I think she's been running around 95 to 96%. That 4% can be a big chunk of
Of
that.
course it can,
So-
yeah.
Based on.
But the point is that Christina was making, that the selectmen, so their job, and the staff here, is to try to collect those that are back, and a lot of them get collected over a short term. That gets taken care of, but when it gets to be a long-term problem, then it comes to select boards, because then we have to
That's
talk
not right,
about
though,
well, it is.
What's not
It is.
right?
the process.
Yeah, it is. In other words, you're leaving your employees to do their job. And they're saying, well, this guy owes $500, and do we need to talk about that, or are they gonna take care of it? Just for example.
I was gonna say, by statute, they can be behind up to 3 years.
Right.
There's nothing you can do about that.
Really?
They accrue interest.
Yeah.
Up to 3 years, they can be behind. There's nothing you can do. When that third year hits, that's when the board can be, we're gonna take your property if you don't pay.
Yep.
And the only thing that technically they have to pay is that third year to get them out of deeding.
So it can be a,
So it can always be, it can be, it's
They
a
can roll
vicious
it if they
circle,
want to.
right?
right,
But by statute, you can't take, you can lien them, you can charge them interest, but you can't take a property until they're 3 years behind on taxes.
Even
I
if
would
it's a
think that would
danger.
be a hot button here.
It's a
Well-
statute,
Huh?
it's a state statute.
No, but what I'm saying is, I
Okay.
would think, I mean, I used to have a bookkeeper that would take care of our receivables, and I'd sit with her once a month, and we'd go over who owes what. Does that happen here?
If they're in the deeding spot, yes, but if they're before that, all we can do is bill them and send them a notice.
Raymond informs them.
Yeah, she sends them a notice, sorry,
Right.
Paul.
I'm just gonna comment
Yeah.
that I think we've drifted away from land use.
Yeah,
So
alright,
I'm
yeah.
gonna drag us
The
back.
junkyards are.
I enjoy these conversations, but I think we do at
Well,
some
you know
point
what
wanna
it
go home
is?
tonight.
We've
Walter.
never had this freedom.
So I'm too free with you.
Never had this freedom to talk about it.
All right,
Other-
but I wanna
other
get through, I wanna try to get
administrations.
through a few more sections and we'll
It's-
call it a night and come
It's
back
good-
in 2
it's-
weeks.
It's good conversation.
Yeah, it is a good conversation, I
Yeah.
think it went long enough, is what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
yeah, good call.
So, I'm not hearing any motions to amend. I don't think we've got any more specific questions about land use, so I'd like to go ahead and move the question.
Okay,
Go
I'm
ahead.
gonna
What-
abstain.
Oh, you've already said that, that's okay. So we're gonna vote to fund the land use health office section of the Bristol town budget, which is section 4411, in the amount of $121,834. All in favor? Aye, or actually
Aye.
raising hands, hands are easier. So I got 4 yeses and Janet is gonna abstain, so I don't need to call for no's. So it's 401, it does pass. All right, let me see what's going on here. My computer went to sleep.
Animal kennel
Animal
contract.
kennel contract.
That, so that normally isn't mine, but I'll go, it is mine now. So
wait, let me make a motion. I'm gonna make a motion to, fund the animal welfare section of the budget, which is section 4414, in the amount of $400. And Janet is, I think it was Janet,
Yeah,
is gonna second that.
Okay.
And now, please continue.
So this is the cost, we are not contracted with any kennels or humane societies. However, we do have to bring any animals that are picked up to Enfield, and we would have to pay a charge at the Enfield Humane Society for the cost of that animal being there. Knock on wood, the police have done a very good job about using Facebook to find owners when they pick up animals, so we haven't had to do that. We used to be able to go to Lynn Kenny, her kennel, but it's closed, so she used to be able to she would take the animals and try and find the owners, and it would be a very small fee. So the $400 is, we left it alone, level funded it, we've only had to use it, and you'll see in 2001 we used it for, because we had to pay for any animal.
Yeah, you got some spending in 2021.
Yeah, in the past, I know that we've had to pay, we had a hoarding situation where we took cats out of a house and we had to pay for all of that as well. And that was more than the 400, but, so we left the 400 because we just don't know what we're going to see as far as animals. When we don't know if we're gonna have a lot of animals one year running loose or not.
that's what budget is, it's
Right.
budget.
Yeah, so that's why we didn't change anything, we just left it at the $400, so.
I'm not crazy about the 400. I wouldn't mind cutting that in half.
We can, yeah.
We can do that. It's a small enough number, we can do anything we want. It
That
doesn't make a
if
big
you
difference.
pick away at it,
Every
can
little
get there.
bit.
So I'm gonna put words in your mouth
Oh,
again.
I
I
don't
just
even have
heard,
the number.
I just heard
knew.
Janet make a motion
Yeah, I
to
did.
amend,
Yeah.
to
There
amend
you go.
line 390 of section 4411 to
Oh, I didn't know
$200.
where the hell it was, I looked at it earlier.
But I don't have a second yet.
Is that what she wants, to $200?
She wants to cut it from 400 to 200. That's what I thought I heard you say.
Yeah, I'll second.
I'm saying it out loud so you can correct me if I got it wrong.
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
Okay. Seconded by Sue.
Yep.
Do we want to have a discussion about this, or are we ready to vote? I'm looking at you, Walter. You look like you have something you want to say.
My animals have got away more than once. I appreciate the way the Bristol Police Department handled it when mine did.
They do a really good job trying to find the owners.
Yep.
And if they can't, unfortunately, they don't have a place they can really keep them. Especially the colder it gets. You can't put them in the outside kennel and leave them there all night long when it gets colder. So they would have to transport them then to Enfield. Knock on wood. We hopefully continue the good practice that we've had, so.
So I never had thought about that, but, so that $400 doesn't cover the police's time and travel there?
No.
They don't charge back
This
for
is
that?
just
They
the fees.
don't separate it out and charge it out. It's just
Right.
part of the police operating budget.
Yeah, this is just the fees that we would be billed by the Enfield.
Yep.
And that's,
Enfield Humane Society.
so we have to stay within the county, and that's the closest
Yeah.
place within Grafton?
Yeah, well, technically, Lakes Region.
I thought Laconia would be closer, but
It
they're
is
not in the
closer, but
same
we're
county.
not. We're not, we're in
Not
Enfield, which is a lot further away.
Right, that's
so-
why.
Because we're down on the bottom corner of the county.
And we're not contracted with anyone, but because we're in Grafton County, we go to Enfield.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay.
So
Okay,
we're gonna vote, I don't think there's more discussion, we're gonna vote on the motion to amend. So we're voting to change the amount for line 390 of section 4411, which is the animal kennel contract, from $400 to $200. All in favor, please raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
4,
Abstain.
okay.
okay.
401, so that change was approved, and I don't think there's really anything more to discuss, so I'm gonna move the bottom line question, which is to approve the animal welfare section of the town budget, which is section 4411, in the amended amount of $200.
You mean 4414?
I said it wrong, I
That's
meant
okay.
4414. I don't know what I said, but I didn't say 4414.
Shannon, you just have to know what he's thinking. You
Yeah.
may get the names wrong, but
Thank you for correcting me. So it's animal welfare, section 4414, in the amended amount of $200. All in favor say aye. Are you still abstaining, or?
Yes.
Okay, so we're still 401, it passes.
I think that's, well, that's it except for CIP, but I'd be
CIP
graciously willing to continue.
No, I think we want to leave CIP. I think the question, I think I would choose to call it a night. If we're gonna continue,
Yeah.
we would do outside agencies.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of setting ourselves up for a long meeting next meeting, but I just assume table it and call it a night now. So-
I just
Well, you
have-
can have extra meetings, right?
You-
Yes, we
You have
have
to do
capacity.
that,
We
so we
actually
have to
have
have
one
one.
scheduled in the system in case we need it.
Right.
So the next meeting, you have police, fire, forestry, and emergency management. But, so, we can do CIP isn't gonna be that long at the next meeting. That would be very brief if you wanted to add that to your 29th.
I would suggest that we put the CIP onto next meeting's agenda, and we'll hold off on outside agencies till a further later meeting.
Yeah, I think from what we heard tonight, although that's from Lakes Region visiting nurse, it's gonna be a conversation.
Yes, so I don't want to rush it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so having said that, we'll just run through the rest of the agenda. Next item is old business, which is approval of the minutes from our previous meeting on October 25th. I know they were distributed to everyone on the committee. Did anyone else have any further changes or corrections they would like to propose?
No.
I don't see any, so I'm gonna ask for a vote. All right, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the October 25th meeting. Walter will second, and now we'll go ahead and vote on them. All in favor?
Aye.
We got four yeses and an abstention. Those are approved. Correspondence. So I traded some more emails with Lakes Region, obviously, got them here, they showed up. I traded an email with Charlie when he asked for the agenda item, which we have tabled and have added to next meeting's agenda. And I believe I haven't seen no other correspondence. So, okay. Carol, any comments from any input or updates from the
No,
select
I
board?
mean, you had three of us here tonight, and you've heard enough from me already. So
All right.
But we so enjoyed it.
I'm sure you
Okay.
did.
So I do have a question.
Actually, I was gonna say, the other correspondence I forgot was Janet sent out an email all about the solar array.
Yeah, the tax, the energy credit.
The energy credit, the solar array.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I mean,
I'm just asking you to do
So you
research.
sent it electronically, I brought the section of the paper that was actually printed in
Yeah,
to remind myself to talk about it, so I'm glad I brought it.
That one, yes, right.
My opinion is, it's an interesting discussion, it's not really budget committee. I mean, you were quoted in here, I mean, the energy committee came with a proposal to the select board is discussing it. Sounds like there's not a complete agreement, there's some disagreement, and no action was taken, so it's just, it's
so
interesting.
when does the budget committee,
If it becomes a warrant article,
Mm-hmm.
then.
It has to be a warrant article.
If the select board creates a warrant article and it impacts finances, we will be asked to vote
Yes.
for our committee's recommendation to the taxpayers of whether or not they should go for it or not.
But the select board doesn't have to agree with the warrant article.
Select board does
I-
not.
oh, they don't?
No.
So, two things.
It actually mentioned in here, somebody made the comment that if the select board doesn't like it, you can always
Right.
write up a petition and force us to put it on the
Right.
warrant, even though we don't wanna do it.
So they're coming before the select board on December 1st to get their final, whether the board will approve them or not, to put it on the warrant.
Right.
If the board says no, then they can submit a petition warrant article, which would be February 7th, I believe.
I was gonna say, I know it's sometime after the first of the year.
And that's where you would vote on the warrant article. You probably won't see it until then, unfortunately, but you would vote on it during your public hearing, whether you support that or not.
What would it take to bring it to them? What are the signatures, or what are
I
we
believe
talking
it's
then? Would it take
25
25?
signatures.
I gotta say, I don't know exactly, but it's not a very high bar.
No.
And there's
Janet makes a perfect point, to your point, what we were talking about. This is Carol's opinion, this is a tax credit for people that can afford to put solar system on their house,
Right.
and their taxes are gonna go down. For the guy who can't afford a solar system, he still has to use his furnace, he doesn't get a tax credit.
Exactly.
That's my problem with it. And the other thing is there something coming up about the change in the federal law and the veterans tax credit, by the way? We gotta talk about that. So
Well-
it's
It's quiet, I
interesting,
don't
because they do get it, there is, I didn't bring my notes
No,
with
it
me, I
has
didn't
to
think
be,
we were
I
gonna talk
just
about
heard
it.
this.
We have friends that just did this.
Say what to do for the,
Converted,
Oh.
to solar energy. And it's very expensive,
Oh, yeah.
but you get a big
You get-
tax
you
credit
get
from
two-
the feds.
You get two things. You get a big tax credit from the government for the cost of the
Right.
system, and then you get in my opinion, you get ongoing subsidy because the electric utility has to buy any excess power
Yes,
without
and they're
charging
already
you
into that.
without charging you any of the transmission fees.
But,
Yeah.
so, and the real problem I have with this, the exact words were, if we want this warrant article to incentivize other people to put solar on their houses. That is not the town's job. Says me. It's not our job to convince people to put solar.
I don't know if it's all, I don't know if it's all
Oh,
of
I
you, but
totally-
the majority of us agree with you 100%.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, and it isn't, and you take a step back, that's carbon and climate change is what that's about. And I get that, whatever
Yeah.
your opinion is, but it's not, I don't think it's fair to people that can't afford to buy a solar
And
system.
older people,
Okay.
that,
But
so,
anyway.
Was this the thing you wanted to bring up, or was there something else you
yeah,
wanted to?
no, it's just that having, try to get information on that. Oh, sign up for this, sign up for that, very hard.
I can share the presentation that he presented to the select board and the numbers that we also gave the select board. I can get that for the board, so that way you can have that
Yeah.
information.
Because I said to my husband, I said, Dave could be dead by the time this thing starts paying back. It's a 7-year.
Well,
Well,
right, that's
aren't they
another
doing the
problem.
same thing with electric vehicles? I mean, they're pressuring you into doing electric vehicles by offering those
Well,
incentives
yeah.
or telling you that
But
it's go away.
don't you have the same problem I do? I live in a condo. I don't own my roof.
Yeah.
I can't do roof
Right.
penetrations.
Oh, no, you can't.
I can't do solar even if I
No.
wanted to.
They haven't looked that far in
You need
advance
to
with all this
also-
stuff.
No.
No.
So solar with the roofing, you have to provide, proof that you're structurally,
Yes.
structural engineering. That's required. We do not permit them without that requirement. And the fire chief reviews it.
But I guess what I'm saying is, at least for me,
You
even
can't
if
do
my
it anyway.
roof,
You
even
don't
if
own
my roof is structurally sound, I own it through the condo. The condo will not give me permission to penetrate the
Right,
roof because
right.
there's no upside for them, there's just downside if there's, I mean, it makes perfect sense, it's just
Right.
downside of at least.
Sure.
So I can't put up solar, and I don't own any land that I can put it on the ground, because I live in a condo, so
Yeah.
it doesn't work for me.
So you're out of
So
luck.
the select board has two things to consider when they consider this at their December 1st. One, they're presenting it at 100% discount. So if you put in a solar array and it's assessed at $10,000, the $10,000 would completely come off. You wouldn't be assessed for it. That's what they're proposing. There are other options throughout the state. There are different areas that do a 25% adjustment, some do a 50%, but they're coming out with 100, they want the board to support 100% offset. So the board will have to decide first if they're gonna support it on a warrant article, and then whether they would support a different percentage or 100%. And if they won't, the energy committee, well, the energy chair is going to go out for petition.
Gotcha.
I question
Right.
100%.
Oh,
Because the feds, we
I,
didn't get 100%.
I understand, but this is gonna happen
So you.
with or without,
Right.
this is happening without our involvement. They don't need us involved at all. The only thing we
Until
get is
what?
at the end, if it gets on the warrant and it affects finance,
Yes.
we will get to vote to
I
for
think-
recommendation.
There'll be less money.
They should
in
know
the
our
tax.
opinion.
Totally, yeah.
Well, let our select board rep know, and when he goes to the select board meeting, he will tell him, I can tell you the
Okay,
folks
so-
on the budget
In the
committee.
meeting, I got one question.
Go ahead.
Okay. On the revenue detail, is there a page number? Page 2, the beach permits for this year were $15,755.
Okay.
On the revenue report,
That's not updated yet, sorry. Not all of the numbers have been added into the revenue report yet, but Bob sent that out and wanted to make sure that you had something in place. The board hasn't approved those numbers just yet.
so how does he close out the month?
He doesn't close it out out of, so the budget analysis is, that's what he's giving you. Our revenue report that you're looking at, are you looking at the 2000 something to
I'm looking at this
2023?
one.
14 to 23.
That is, so if you looked at 2023, sorry, let me go back.
Yeah, it's 15,700.
It's 755.
Yep, let me go.
That's 2022 actual, 15,755
Yeah,
so far.
But it says we've received in 14,509 right here. On this report,
Yep.
on the revenue on the front page.
let me go find that.
Actual so far is that's 2021.
Yeah.
Actual is 14,509.
So if you could ask Bob about that.
So
Chairman, are you
Yes,
there?
Yes, no, I hear you. I'm just gonna, yes. So
Okay.
we need to ask Bob to explain what the numbers are different on different reports, is what I'm hearing you
Yeah.
say.
So the actual 14,509 is 2021.
Yeah,
The revenue report that you're looking at is what we've taken in for 2022, which is the 15,755.
Yep.
There's not a projected budget number yet on the 2023, that will be coming soon, but the 15,755 is the actual that was taken in for 2022. I don't anticipate we'll sell anything
And that'll be
for
the
the
end of
beach
it.
between now and the end of the year, so.
Right.
But
Yeah.
that's what we've
I mean,
taken in.
it's not that, like $1,200, but I'm a
numbers-
nitpicker when it comes
The
to
numbers
stuff
don't
like
match,
this.
and numbers
Yeah,
need to
and then
match.
the other question, Christina had suggested that I mention it, and then you had suggested I should mention it, is I won't be here for the month of February.
Okay,
There is an important meeting in February,
Yeah.
right, Christina?
February 7th is your public hearing.
so the entire month of February, you're
Yeah.
gone, okay?
I can do streaming,
Okay,
because we're driving down to Florida,
okay.
and we got the dog, and it's gonna take us forever to get down there with the dog. And I can, if you let me,
Yep,
and,
So,
yeah, I'm looking at you.
No, you can Zoom, I think they said that they were gonna do that,
Via
yeah.
live stream though. You can only.
no, we'll have to zoom you in if you wanna participate in the.
No, I'd like to,
Yeah.
we'll,
Zoom
you know,
is already set up and I can send you the link.
No, we talked about it before,
Yeah, we
during
did. We
during,
talked
during,
about-
during the outside agency meetings, we
Yeah.
had 2 of the people zoom in,
Yeah.
so we can do it.
okay, okay.
So
I hate missing it.
as far as the committee though, you have to have a quorum in person.
Gotcha,
If you don't have a quorum in the room, say somebody's sick or can't.
Then we don't
come in,
have a
then
valid
you
meeting.
can't have a meeting
Right.
with Janet on Zoom. You have to have a quorum in person.
thank you for reminding us of that.
Yeah.
So long
So
as.
is that new since COVID?
So COVID, there's no more emergency COVID rules. Because
Okay.
in the past, you had to have a quorum here no matter what.
Right, there was
And you
no,
could participate on the phone, Zoom is a new thing, so
Yeah.
you can vote online as long as your quorum's in person. Because we've had to do that with our land use boards.
I made a note, Janet,
Yeah.
we'll talk again probably early in January to
Okay.
get everything set up for February, I'm
Great,
not
thank
gonna worry now.
Yeah. Leslie's right,
So we
this
got-
is a good group.
Okay, board minutes, comments, staff comments, did we?
Real quick, the format change is in front of you, I didn't know if you noticed that. Bob put the format change in. If you go to the end of your document,
End of our document.
it's a prettier document that we'll put on your computer as well, but.
Oh, send it to them.
But the black and white printout is all we can do. So if you-
No, I think what she's saying is the request that I made, that instead of operations capital
Yeah.
water sewer, it's operations water sewer capital.
Oh,
That's what you're talking about.
Yes.
for the time.
So thank you to
It
Bob.
was an easy fix, the
Yeah.
select board approved it, that change is already in place and it's in the document that we've given you tonight.
Good,
We did move Nana and Penny Baker together.
I
Saw
noticed that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And then, one thing we'll put on your computers, I didn't get it to Shannon for tonight's meeting. The 2022 basic law of budgeting, got it digitally.
I was gonna ask you, and I said, no, shut up.
Yeah, I had that.
Well,
I got it on my
So
notes.
there wasn't a lot of money left to buy everybody a book, but
Yeah.
we could certainly do that. But I have it digital, and you can put it on your computers or email it to anybody who wants it, or we can print out a PDF.
I would prefer you print it out.
Color. It'll be black
Oh, I
and
don't
white.
need it.
How big a document is this? Roughly?
Oh, it's like this
110
thick.
pages.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
110 pages, yeah.
We can print it, it'll just be a black and white, it won't
That's
be a
fine.
book, but we can certainly print that.
How much is it?
So, talking about
I can
that,
have mine confirmed.
Because, so if we wanted to purchase one, could I do that? I mean, just to purchase it, to have it?
I can look at the cost and try to purchase the book. I think it was $40 or $50 a book. So I can print them in black and white, I can share them as a PDF digitally for everybody. And I can put them on your laptops, or well, we can put them on your laptops so that you'll have them along with your bylaws whenever you need them. And then we can look at ordering regular books. My concern is I'm hoping I wouldn't wanna buy it now is my concern, because if they change it next year, and not that a lot of laws will change, but we could wait and see if there's a new book that comes out next year, and then buy books.
So for me personally, put it on the computer, I'll bring a flash drive to the meeting in 2 weeks and download it off there so I can take it home.
Yeah, that's a
Does that work for you?
Yeah, that's fine.
You want a paper copy? Do you want it at all?
I have 2 of them.
So you don't need anything right now?
No, I don't.
I just wanted to make sure.
What do you
There's
want?
Well,
changes.
the only reason why is I
Yes.
have a hard time
Oh,
focusing
is
on
it?
the
Well,
computer,
no, and
so
you
I
know-
really, I mean, I do a lot of computer
I
work all the
think I
time.
No, no, that's
So
okay,
I'd rather have
I'm
a
not
book,
trying to put
rather
pressure
than a
on
book.
I don't wanna print it, cause you're
But I understand what
gonna.
she's saying, not wanting to buy a $40 book
Okay.
to get
Well, that's just, I would buy it, that's why I said I would buy it.
I don't wanna say
Are you okay
anything.
with them just leaving about 100
Can't
pages
I
in
just
black and white
email
for you?
it?
You can email the
Guess
PM,
so,
but
I mean-
some.
Well, yeah, but I like to
I mean,
Okay.
refer to it.
So
And why I say that is, because I go to bed about 9 o'clock and read.
They're gonna
And-
put one away for
and I have
January.
all these pages on my bed.
And then
Okay.
decide if you want it or
Yeah.
not, or we'll do something different.
yeah,
Right,
okay.
so we
So-
can do whatever you'd like to do.
So I think what we're saying is Walter doesn't need anything. Carol and I will do electronics. Sue isn't sure what she wants, so
Yeah.
print one black and white copy for Janet. Janet, please let Sue look at it, so she
Sure.
can decide whether it's gonna work for her or not, and
Okay.
make sure what she wants to do.
Yeah.
And they'll be in your laptop folders, so in case you do
Where's
want
that?
to just pull it up on your,
Oh, I,
these
These
laptops.
here?
on your-
Yeah, I don't
if you
use
wanted
this.
to,
Oh, okay.
Okay?
if it went home with me, I'd use it, but,
Yeah,
Which is why I said I'm gonna bring in a flash drive
Yeah.
and then I'll bring it home.
yeah.
okay.
So, in previous years, we have gotten these reports way before the meetings. So getting this report tonight, and I'm not criticizing Shannon, does not help me,
You sent it.
because
Who
I
sent
did.
that?
We got it electronically
They
4
did.
days ago.
Yeah, as
Yeah.
soon as I got it, I sent it out
Yeah.
during my other work hours, yes.
So, I can tell you how we do them with the other boards, and we can certainly try to do that with you. We do
Yeah.
it before. We try to send all materials, agendas, set it the week before, have everything ready to go. We're trying to help Shannon, and we're setting up a filing cabinet where she can have folders for you.
oh my God, Shannon.
With that all your materials will go in your folders, you'll be all ready, you'll get a folder at your meeting.
See, Wendy set us up with binders, and she was just one person up there, and she was able to get these out. So I was trying to understand.
We've also changed the upstairs job duties, and there.
Well, because you're
So,
gonna say word.
yeah, there'll be more changes going upstairs, that's not set in stone yet, we'll be working with the select board on that. But we took some stuff from assessing that really shouldn't have been assessing in land use, and it's moved. We've moved things from 911 to the fire department. We're not quite done with that move. We're fixing the procedure and the ordinance, but that's going to the fire department. Things like event permitting, why is it in assessing and land use? It's going upstairs, someone's gonna have to do that. So and the consent agenda for the select board meetings, that's going upstairs. So we've shifted some things. So we apologize for our growing pains, so to speak, but we will certainly try to do the same thing and get materials out the week before.
But what, so you're saying, can they print it and you come in and get it?
Yeah, I'll come in and get it.
Right.
Yeah.
If I can have it for the weekend. I'm
With
not
that being said too, just so we all know, I am going on vacation for 9 days. I will be 2 days before the meeting back in New Hampshire. So I'm gonna try to communicate with her, but I'm gonna be very limited
Well,
for family time.
You go on vacation, Shannon.
Yeah, she.
So a couple days, I'll work with Christina on trying to get things out quickly. If I don't respond to you, I'll respond to you on the 26th when I get back into New Hampshire and I have my computer.
And so you're going to see Nikki?
Yes,
Okay, good for you.
yes.
We
And
can,
I've
we can
I've
live.
already promised my son no work. I will never give him a work excuse in the 9 days we are in Disney. So
Good for you.
So we
Otherwise,
will
yeah.
actually set up your agenda for the next meeting then, because we don't want Shannon to worry about that while she's on
Well,
vacation.
I already got it.
I think from
Already
the
have set
comments
up.
we made now, you've got what you need to
Yeah.
do next
Yeah.
meeting's agenda.
Yeah, I've already got pretty much it all set up, so I'll send it out tomorrow.
We'll put it into a folder, we'll print copies out ahead of time, we'll send you everything a week ahead. And then between Shannon and I going forward, we'll make sure you get everything a week ahead.
Okay.
So there's a good question.
Yeah.
Where does she get paid from?
The executive budget.
She is under executive. Are all of the assistants under executive?
No. Like Leange's has their assistant assessing and highway are under assessing, fire's under fire, police is under police. There's Shannon and Deb Tibby, who does the select board
Right,
meeting, they're
yeah.
under executive. And the executive assistant, Wendy's under executive.
Oh, she is.
Yeah.
Now, you made one other comment and you said there'll be no deputies. Does that,
Deputies.
did you just mean in land use?
Oh, you
Or-
mean it on the health officer?
Yeah.
So the deputy health officer, I didn't touch base, so thank you for asking that, but is going to transition also to the fire department. We're gonna keep the health officer side of it, and the deputy, this is a trial run to see, they're not sure if they're gonna be able to take health officer up, and so they're doing the deputy to see what that entails, before any final decisions are made. So the health officer will remain here, and the deputy backup will be at the fire department.
But you're not taking the deputy out of Raymond's area,
No,
because that's a deputy.
yeah,
Okay.
okay, sorry, I didn't touch hers either, but there's a.
No, that's okay.
There's every assistant for the most part is budgeted in
Executive?
the regular budget.
No, in there.
Oh, in the regular
budget.
Budgets. Whoever they report to is normally where they're budgeted, so. And that's it for me, I just wanted to.
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Walter, you ready
We're
to go
good.
yet?
Yeah,
Walter, you wanna make the motion to adjourn?
yes,
I
come
thought
on,
you said
Walter,
the
you're about
emotion.
ready to fall asleep.
I know.
Come
Okay.
on, make it.
I'll let you make it, I'll be here as long as there's a reason.
I'm gonna make
I'll
a,
make a motion to adjourn.
thank you, I will second.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.